Okay, I think that's it. Oh, wow, look at that lag. Of course. Of course we're gonna, of all the things I had to prepare before the stream, of course there's still gonna be lag in the video. Let me fix that. Let me fix it. I might have to, is that better? Okay. Well, happy, well, Christ is risen. Happy, bright Monday to everyone. I figured I'd do a stream, just because I have some time. So I'm gonna do it. It's been a while. Been a year. Has it been 2 years? Maybe like 1 year since videos. And who knows how long since a live stream. So might as well do something. See the link in the chat if you want to comment or donate. I'll read those. I'll also probably read the chat as well as I get the time. I don't know. There's so much to talk about. It's been so long. So much going on. So many. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So it's good to see everyone back. I'll go ahead and look at the chat right now. A couple comments I noted on the way. Oh, now there's a whole bunch being posted because people actually see me. Shoot. Yeah, there was... oh, I'm getting all lagged. Hold on. Just at the last minute, I decreased the resolution, so hopefully it reduces the lag a little bit. But it's really... it's not really internet lag, it's more the camera thing. Anyway, I'll go ahead and read a couple comments or look at some stuff. Let's see. Wow, I'm just, of all the preparation I just did, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot how to do a live stream. Yeah, comment from Marcio. It's kind of sad that the internet and personal computing is so much worse than today than it was when Luke started complaining about it 10 years ago. You know what? I am so glad I'm not keeping track of that stuff. Anyway, like I know there's new stuff in Linux. I know there's new devious things going on, but I just can't bother to keep track at this point. So people will still send me emails about this, that, or the other. Like I know there's like some Ex Libre thing. I know systemd is always doing its thing, but I just, man, my computer's been the same for years now, and it's not going to change. Let me actually look at what people are posting now. So, streams are back. You look, yeah, a lot of people made comments about my beard. Actually, I trimmed up my beard significantly in the past couple of weeks because I think it was too scraggly, and I wanted it to look not too homeless for Holy Week. So I didn't take that much length. Honestly, I think my beard doesn't grow that quickly, to be honest. I'm kind of embarrassed, but it grows out way too much. It doesn't grow out this much, but you know, enough to make me have a funny shape. So yeah, I got rid of that. Let's see. Hey Luke, we miss you especially at this AI slop time. I mean, that is the internet now, though. Like that, the internet is just entirely AI slop. And one of the reasons I haven't been posting is just because I haven't been using the internet, because it's not useful anymore. You can't get anything from it because everything is just algorithmic content. And it's really easy to tell. Like, I mean, I know some people will fall into it, fall for it, but you know, everything you search online is AI generated. And I know a couple years ago, you know, I've been doing videos about this like off and on, just like, you know, I haven't really done LLM stuff or AI stuff since I was in my PhD program, but even at the time I like didn't take it that serious, but I didn't think it'd be so annoying, you know, because but what I was going to say is there was a brief period a couple years ago where everything you search is AI, but then you go to YouTube and at least YouTube is still people. It's harder to do AI for videos and stuff. But now, I mean, nearly all of my recommended videos, no matter what I click on, are just AI slop, just all the time. And there's just no, I don't know, it's just kind of depressing. So yeah, I don't really find the internet that entertaining at this point. So I just don't use it that much, you know. Then how do you get information? There's very you don't need information. We're drowning in pseudo information. Like you don't need. You listen. There's all this stuff in the world going on. Nothing ever happens. Even when things happen, they're not actually happening. And I don't. You know, I'm kind of being sarcastic there, but I think one thing that defines your modern person especially in the world of the internet, or even before that, the world of, boomer TV and stuff like that, is there's this idea that we have to be informed about these things that are going on in the world. And learned people can be, and learned people can be involved in that. But fundamentally, it falls into that democratic illness of, I want to be really involved in emotionally in things that ultimately I don't control. And that is fundamentally, there's something wrong about that. There's something self-destructive about that when you get emotionally attached to these things that are going on in the world that you don't affect. That's not me saying like I'm apathetic about things, the Zion Dawn's new war or something like that. I'm not apathetic about it, but it's just, there's nothing where, even if I have a greater platform than most people, Donald Trump is not going to see a YouTube video I do and, I'm going to call it off. So, but either way, that's not to say, you can have an effect on the world, and you can have an effect on the world around you, but, people almost like they care more about the stuff that they can't control, and they almost ignore the stuff that they can to their detriment, And when it's something out of my control, my thinking is, oh, look, the gas prices are going up in that war. That means, like, Israel's losing, okay? I try to look at the bright side or something. Are you still finding new web ring sites? I haven't really been. I just haven't been on the internet. Even the small web, I appreciate people who do their own little sites. I do have kind of a little project that I'm working on, sort of with a friend. Maybe I'll talk about that later, but it's going to be the absolute antithesis to AI slop online. Let's see. Whoop. Man. Let's see. Nothing ever happens. He said it. It's true. Poor graphics and a monotone voice for all the AI-generated videos. Terrible. Well, what's even worse is when they're not going to have monotone voices. AI-generated voices are getting better at emulating like human cadence and intonation. So that's going to be even worse. And by the way, I pinned a link to the donation links. Obviously, you can super chat, but just remember that YouTube super chats, YouTube gets like 30% of them or 33%. So it's preferred if you, I think I already got some donations on the other thing. I'm going to look at those. It's preferred if you click the link. There's just like PayPal, and there's also Bitcoin and Monero stuff, like a super chat thing with that. You might say, Luke, why don't you have your own XMR like self-hosted thing? And that's, I don't know. It's just because I haven't been streaming in forever, and so I'm using some XMR service for that. All right, the real Luke. Here's one from the XMR site. Guy says, the real Luke Smith. Can you verify that you're the real? Oh, this is from a couple months ago. He found the account. Can you verify you're the actual real Luke Smith? Actually, it'd be nice if the devs added a feature for people to verify via PGP or some kind of et cetera. Either way, this is irrelevant because I'm now saying this is my official xmrchat.com account. But thank you anyway for the donation of $3 in Monero. And let's see if there's anything else. Oh. The guy talking about Mexico. Let me see. Yeah, the funny thing is, where is it? Okay. Donation from PayPal, something from someone. I don't know if I'm supposed to read his name, but I'm not going to. Hey, Luke, great to see you again. Hope you upload new, not related. How was Mexico? I've been backpacking here for the past 3 months and totally love it. Currently in Chiapas. Miss your content on offbeat academic topics. Hope you make some more soon. So yeah, it's funny, like the last time I was really on the internet, it was like when I went to Mexico, which was like a bajillion years ago. That was like so long ago. I mean, I went for Monerotopia or whatever, which was actually really fun, but it was mostly in Mexico City. I did have the chance to like see all the sites. I actually recorded a video review of that, which I have not released. So there are very many unreleased Luke Smith videos that I like record, and I recorded it last year, actually. I just remember, I think the tentative title was Mexico City, a place of wonderful culture, vibrancy, and crime. So the funny thing in Mexico City, I really liked it. I really liked Mexico City, but I did witness a couple attempted homicides. Like, it's funny, in one weekend you see a lot of violence. But, you know, that's just another. Couple of bucks from my authoritarian country from Mike. I guess that's $2 What is that? Is that the Australian currency? I don't know. Wouldn't want to be there, but what do you think about age verification on Linux? Do you think BSD systems will become more relevant as desktop OSs? Saludos desde Argentina. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Is that the kind of stuff that exists on Linux now? They have age verification? That's extremely frightening. I don't know anything about it. This is the first time hearing about it. Well, you gotta... I mean, I guess I could imagine OSs having that, but like the truth is, when it comes to Linux, it's such a big world. And again, I haven't changed anything on my computer in years, other than update. But like, you can so much choose your own adventure. It doesn't really affect me if big OSs choose silly things to do. So, you know, let's see. All right, hey, this is from Anonymous. Hey Luke, do you think it's still do you still think it's worth to pursue internet income in businesses? So internet income, I mean, it's like a mixed story. Like, it depends on what you're trying to do or what other alternatives you have. The nice thing about internet income is obviously it's like place independent. So you might be able to do something that can make, you know, it's kind of like people when they work for a business in like Los Angeles, but they live in like rural, I don't know, Wyoming or something. Like, there's a big income differential. So, I mean, obviously, like, having some degree of, what was I going to say? Having some degree of, like, income, regardless of where you are, or, like, if you need to move or if you want to move, that's a great thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I would recommend that. But still, it you know, if you have... Well, okay, there's the other thing of, like, let's say fat tails, like in the Talebian sense. Like, if you get a wage job, like, or, you know, theoretically you could have a business like this in real life, but another thing to remember is, I mean, put yourself in my shoes, okay? So let's say I have this YouTube channel. Nominally, even when I don't post stuff, you know, I get paltry amounts of ad revenue and stuff like that. But an internet income can sometimes balloon up, right? You can go really super viral. You can be, I don't know, Mr. Beast or something. You can make $1 jillion. So, like, you know, if you're a wage worker or a salaried worker, you have, like, an upper limit to how much you can make. But on the internet, especially because you have such a massive scale, like, you can scale up without having that much work input. You can and I'm actually, social media is a bad example of this, actually. Listen, I don't recommend people having, like, things that I have, which it's not like a job for me, but, like, I wouldn't recommend someone to even do what I've done, like, for monetary purposes, because it doesn't make that much money, e-celebbing, or at least so far as I know, but more importantly, you kind of lose your soul if you're invested in it all the time. Like, if you really want to make it a job, which you shouldn't want to, like the grind of social media, it's not going to be a good thing. But if you're, like, doing some kind of marketing online or some kind of site where you can scale up easily, that's a situation where you might actually want to do that. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. Oh, yeah, and also, yeah, but the guy who was backpacking in Mexico... Yeah, he said, I miss your content on offbeat academic topics. You know, that's the only thing I really kind of miss doing, because, like, sometimes I want to do a video, and this is kind of what Not Related is, but I also did, like, kind of little videos on, like, almost word studies on certain things. Sorry, I'm sorry about the lag with the video. I have to, like, basically come in and, like, manually fix it every couple of minutes, so... but either way, those are the videos I really enjoy, and I feel like they have a good impact, and, like, for your... intelligent person or something. One thing that I really, really want to do, this is like I did like a word study on what does it mean to be natural or something like that, and I look at like the origin of that term and like how it's been historically used in a way that's different from how we like intuitively have that. Or I think I did that with other words as well. But like one I really want to do, which is actually like religiously relevant, is I was having this conversation with a friend who was he became Orthodox or something, but he has a bunch of friends who are still kind of like Protestants. Because specifically, like, there's certain ways you can read the epistles of Paul that every Protestant has been told to read them in this way. And let's say like, faith versus works, things like this. And I think if you understand like how Paul uses words like pistis or apistia or something like that, it's really clear like the Protestant reading of Romans or Galatians is like totally impossible, right? It's totally, but you have to kind of dive into that word. Otherwise, I was having this conversation with the friend, and he's like, "Oh, you should actually really do a video on that," because like I think a lot. So maybe I will. I've been meaning to. I just want to find the right medium for it. Maybe we can talk about it a little here, but. Okay, Binary Ghost says, I don't find the AI stuff to be all that bad. More has been promised than they can deliver. I go with the mindset that AI is like a personal intern, smart enough to do stuff, but not to trust entirely. Well, my view of it is it's like totally useless to me. Like, I felt like AI has really gotten us nothing, like, other than it can auto-generate images, which are kind of creepy. Like, I just feel like it's really kind of vaporware. It's a continuation of the algorithmic internet, where less and less of the stuff that's on the internet is actually like made by humans. And so I don't really feel. I know some people use it for their work as a way of like scoping over data and drawing conclusions, but like I don't trust it enough to do that. Yeah, you can think of it as an intern, you have to check, but I don't know. Like I just don't really feel. I mean, for me. And I will say this, like a lot of people, when I did that video about like AI is a nothing burger, which I do believe, like, because my motivation, although I'm complaining about it, I'm saying it's affected the world, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I was saying in that video. What I was saying is, like, people have this idea that it's some kind of like paradigm shifting, life altering thing that's going to just shape the way humans process reality. And I just don't think that. But a lot of the critics of that video would say stuff. They would say stuff like, oh, well, this is just like the internet. People said the internet wouldn't make a difference, and it clearly has. And honestly, my take is, frankly, the internet, it hasn't really changed anything fundamental about the nature of man, It's still nihil novi sub sole, It's still the same stuff. Like, yeah, we can get goods delivered in a different way, and there are different internet services, and there are different temptations that come with the internet and bad stuff about it. But like, if you're someone who's who just like in the 80s or whatever decides, I'm never going to get internet, my kids are never going to get internet, you can still pretty much live the same life you did then. It's just like internet is like totally voluntary. You can check out of it. And yes, there are some places where they're trying to get people to use phones and stuff, but for the most part, definitely in America, in most places, you can just like opt out of the internet. And I feel the same way about AI, where it's something that people like. I spent a couple years kind of away from the internet, and AI is just all over the place, and it's a fad, and like I just never bit onto it. So I find it annoying that it's changed the way the internet works. But not at a fundamental level. It's just made things more mediocre. That's kind of what I'm saying. So it's not like transformative. It's going to make some things more efficient or less efficient, or more annoying or less annoying, but you can still opt out of it. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Let's see. Sorry, I'm a little slow on the messages and stuff. Hey, Luke, I got interested in the Orthodox Church. I'm Catholic, possibly looking to convert. I see there are multiple churches like Russian, Greek. Which do you follow, and any significant differences? I mean, it's not an issue of which do you follow. Like, frankly, in America, it's an administrative thing. It's just like, is your bishop Greek or Russian? Now, there are differences, but like if you're just starting out, you don't need to be thinking about them. Like, there are controversies between the Greeks and Russians and stuff like this. But like if you're really starting out, it's just like not like people want to be involved in the politics of like I don't know, their churches or something, but you don't need to be. Like, fundamentally, they're the same. If you're baptized or received at one of the churches, you'll be accepted in the other church. Like, it's the same church, you know. But what I would recommend, now I would say there are differences. This is not me saying like a church under Goarch, the Greek Archdiocese, versus Rokor or the OCA or Antiochia, whatever. I'm not saying there's no difference between them. But if you're starting out, you don't need to know all the differences, because all of them, you know, they have the same sacraments, right? They all mutually accept each other anyway. So it's kind of a distraction. But also, you should probably judge things based on like just how nice the parishes you go to, like the priest, but also like the parishioners. You know, there are a lot of if you go to I usually will gravitate to churches in Rokor or something. They have a little more conservatism in their mannerisms and dress and stuff like that. So if I'm in a new town, I'll usually go there. But if I hear, it's like a super small parish with like, it's done, the service is all in Slavonic, which occasionally they have, I might be like, okay, I'll look at some other church. But I go to all of them when I'm traveling. And starting out, I would just recommend go to all of them, see how they are, and make some judgments based on that. So yeah, that's what I'd say to that. Let's see what other. All right. Let's see, Cointree thing. Has Cointree like busted their internet? Oh wait, no, that's the message I already read. Sorry about internet income. Okay, so Monero. Hey Luke, thanks for all the videos over the years. It's nice to see you come back online every so often. Yeah, I mean, I try to preach. I try to do what I actually preach, and frankly, it's easy to do that because I find making videos all the time or something is just excruciating. You know, like it's just not fun. People shouldn't be doing it. It's not naturalistic. Again, me and all of you have a parasocial relationship. Meaning we don't have a relationship, we're just people on the internet, but so I just like to get on, do what I want to do, and jump off, and I think frankly that's what I recommend for anyone else. Like, use it however. Let's see. Quadrio Celata says, do you choose to be religious because of the structure, community, and morals it gives to you and others? And in my case, I'm not sure how to justify one religion truth over another, e.g. Islam over Christianity, etc. Any guidance would be appreciated. Well, no, I'm not a fan of these guys who instrumentally believe in a religion because it's like they don't actually believe in it, let's be clear, and they go just for fun or something like that. It's kind of I don't believe in that. I'm an Orthodox Christian because I believe Orthodox Christianity is true. And you can do your own deep dive into that. I mean, I would recommend just going to a church, talking to the people there, probably talking to the priest. But I think for me that it's like the historical reality of the church, and I guess that's the thing for me where the more I look into history, and there's almost like an empty spot in history that's been removed by kind of the Enlightenment, kind of the Protestant Reformation, and that is the actual history of the past 2,000 years that are entirely about the Orthodox Church, right? In a sense, just as an example, you guys know, a while back I was talking about writing a little book on the Protestant Reformation, but also kind of the history of the British Isles in relationship to Christianity. And this isn't going to answer your question exactly. I'm actually talking about something a little different that I think is important. But I would just say go to church, experience that, pray for faith, and it all. I can't give you an answer because I don't exactly know where you are. But I will say this: when it comes to the historical centrality of the church, I was looking into stuff from early British history, and people talk about this concept of the Dark Ages, right? Or even worse, when they say Dark Ages were because of the church or something silly like that. And nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, those ages are dark now because, firstly, let's say in Britain especially, the era of Christianization is one of the periods we know so much about. And we know so much about because of effectively church records, lives of the saints, which are written constantly. They have huge amounts of historical detail. But at the coming of the Protestant Reformation, there was this purposeful extirpation of Christian history. You take it, like suddenly every life of the saint it's not just Protestants doubted them. They almost like assumed that they must all be false. So that history, which is entirely like the history of let's say the English or the Celtic peoples of Britain, is entirely a Christian history. But if you take the conversion of those people, if you take, like you look at the conversion of the Celts, we have huge amounts of details of what bishops and what priests went to what places, their dioceses, who converted when, like a point-by-point, decade-by-decade cultural, historical history of all these regions, right? It wasn't a dark age. It's one of the best documented periods compared to anything else, I mean, considering how much time has passed, we just know so much about it. But now it's just not considered history. It's as if it's almost as if, like, if you really look at details of Chinese history, you're not going to find much of it because a lot of it has only stayed in Chinese. It hasn't been translated into English. But it's the same thing here. Like the Wikipedian narrative of history that we have, like in the kind of post-Reformation English-speaking world, is one in which history has already been rewritten. There's already blank spots that we call the Dark Ages or whatever. And but either way, I would say to this comment as well, I think when this is just speaking on my account now, I think it's very difficult for me to look at history in that light and not see that there's frankly a historical reality to many miraculous conversions, lives of the saints, all these kind of things that are actually happening and actually happened in history. It's not just like some hagiographies that were written, 1,000 years later, fictionalized and stuff, because people actually can look at these lives of the saints and verify historical details, and of course the other mystery is like how did all these people Christianize? They weren't conquered. It wasn't like the Muslim invasions or something like that. And the church has always preserved that kind of history, but now it's just like, oh no, but that can't be real. Miracles can't happen. All this kind of stuff. Like we have to write a new history based on disbelieving all those kind of things. And of course, that's where you get this kind of atheistic narrative history. Of course, it comes from Protestantism originally, but that's my not rant, but kind of rambling on that topic. I'm gonna look back at the YouTube chat, even though it's the hardest one to view because like it's so slow compared to everything else. Great to see you back from Neo Rothbardian. Funny name. Speaking of Rothbard, or not really Rothbard at all. I was, I'm constantly going now on purges of books. Sorry, I'm gonna readjust the. I'm constantly going on like purges of books. Like I got to some point where I'm just like, I have way too many books. I need to like get rid of them. I actually have very regular book burnings. If there are books I just don't think should exist, I will I've burned hundreds and hundreds of books. In fact, sometimes if I go to a book sale that's selling books for like 25 cents, I will happily. Often I'll go to the kids section and see all this degenerate stuff, and I'll just like buy a bag of it and just burn it, because and it's not even, I know kids don't even care about these PSYOP books that adults make for them now, but I just think I'm doing something good by taking them out of the world, just like extinguishing them. So I get rid of a lot of books, but there are lots of books that I just don't want. I want to get rid of. I don't think they should be burned or something. It's just like not useful to me. But I always wonder, like, what about all the old libertarian stuff I have? Like, should I keep that or not? But I still keep on the. Let's see. Actually, yeah, Rothbard's right here. Although this copy I've never actually read of Man, Economy, and State, but pretty immaculate looking. Put that back. People are gonna note I don't have shorts. I just rolled my pants up. I feel kind of weird doing that when I have a jacket on. Okay, let me try to get back to this YouTube chat. It is so hard to, I'm just going to get rid of that window. Give me a second. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. I'll check the other. Let's see. I really should have like 2 computers here. I do not own... I don't know. Like, I've gotten through so much of my life having just one computer. And it just... The only time I really think about having more than one is when I, do a stream. Because I'm like... And I think there have been periods where I've had 2. Like, I used to have a functioning desktop. So... Someone teach him 6-7 immediately. I hear about some things. I know about 6-7, whatever it means. Thank you, Luke, for Larbs and all your great guides. I was very glad seeing you streaming again. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see, have I read that one? Two little old ladies came to my door and asked me, "Do you think the world is getting worse?" I agreed and said billions have to die to... He's doing the meme. They agreed and told me Jesus was going to do that. I'm a Jehovah's Witness now. Oh my goodness. Jehovah's Witnesses. They are quite... I haven't run into one of those in a long, long time. Not surprisingly, they don't... Luke's opinion on poetry. People now cannot do it. That's all I can say. So, there's some... One of the saddest things about the modern world is not, like, just AI slop or something like that or whatever. Hold on. I need to do something so I don't have to do it in the future. It's not even like the AI slop. It's more like the fact... It's like cultural mediocrity. Like... Musicians aren't good musicians anymore. Artists aren't good artists anymore. Craftsmen aren't good craftsmen. Like wood carvers. People know how to do carpentry, including myself, for like doing, making simple furniture and stuff, but they don't know how to do artisanal stuff, like really spending time and investing in stuff. And, that's one of those things that, I don't know, like that's the real sad thing, I guess I could say. Luke, do you have any plans on uploading new videos? So, as I think I said, I have a lot of money that or a lot of money, why did I say that? I looked at my email that says, you've got money for a super chat. But, I have a bunch of videos that I just haven't put up, and I might put them up. I'll rewatch them and see if they're worth putting up, and I might record more. We've had AI for 100 years. It's just recently become computerized. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's right. Let me pop out the chat for a second. Get rid of that. How's the lag? I actually kind of wonder how bad the lag is. I'm glad that there are still people after all these years that will watch a laggy stream of mine. I remember someone making this comment when I did videos... Oh, in my last video of, a year ago, it said something like, oh, it's actually kind of surprising you can just come back to YouTube and not, like, people are watching your stuff, and for the most part, I was getting a little more views, even though I haven't been adding subscribers, and I think, it's interesting because I do videos at this point so infrequently, but I still have, like, kind of, people who had followed me, like, they might be 25 now, they were following me, like, almost 10 years ago. It's funny to think I've even been on YouTube that long, but, yeah, okay, so let me look at those you got money things. Let's see. Hey Luke, good to hear from you. From Thomas, thank you. Let's see, Cal. Do you have much familiarity with other major religions like Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism? Any thoughts on the idea that these different beliefs ultimately pointing to the same truth, aka universalism or perennialism? Well, I mean, yeah, sure, I'm familiar with other religions. When I was a kid, I didn't look into Islam to convert to it or something, but, I wanted to learn a lot about it. Like, when I was a kid, like, kind of where the Middle East was really heating up, we really started invading countries in earnest when I was, like... around 2003 or 4. But no, I think perennialism is absolutely, it's this attempt to take contradictory ideas and philosophies and just kind of mush them together. And, it's like trying to say that everyone's right, but you end up saying that everyone's wrong or everyone's incoherent or, just kind of silliness. Like, I do appreciate people who look for, common themes, but like even in the common themes in religion or common themes and even the concept of religion as a discrete separate thing, separate from philosophy or knowledge or history or whatever, I think is kind of silly. But assuming that that's the case, I think that people who do that are, it's actually a remnant of kind of scholasticism, wherein the idea was like to take every Christian saint, but also every Greek philosopher, and somehow make it sound like they're all saying the same things, and they're not. There's a you can't believe that Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is a true religion, and also believe that Islam. The thing is, like, people who spin the world in their head and they almost like don't think religion is a real thing anyway and think like there's no historicity to anything. Yeah, you could take a religion, you can take a philosophy that makes no claims about the universe and try to make them all say the same thing. But when you have to, obviously this is Bright Week. This is right after the resurrection of Christ, Pascha. And obviously I and every Orthodox Christian believes that the death and resurrection of Christ was a literal historical event that happened, and it's highly relevant. It's highly relevant for us sharing human nature with him, but also that precludes other. It's something that happened at a point in time, and you can't just say, "Oh, well, maybe that's true, and some other thing is true." I don't know. Like you can't at the same time be a Muslim who thinks that Christ didn't actually die on the cross or something like that. So I don't think it's too serious. I don't think people who are even thinking in those terms are even too serious about it. I think it's just the kind of philosophy you get on the internet, when you're just thinking about things in the abstract. I don't know. And obviously, but again, like I do have some respect for people who are looking at like wider themes, and obviously church fathers and saints are looking at Greek philosophers, pagan philosophers, all these kind of things, and they're interested in what they say and the truth in what they say. And you can look at a false religion and see truth. There's no doubt about that. You can look at heterodox Christians and see some truth. But you can't let that distract you from, you don't want to have it distract you from the main prize of like ultimate truth and the preserved faith, I guess. That's what I'm getting at. So, all right, so let's see. Here's a person who says, I'm a Hermetic or Neoplatonist Christian. No, you're not. You can't be. Or unless you just mean that to mean Protestant, okay? Highly involved in higher levels of Masonry. I attempted to attend an Orthodox church for a few months, but it didn't resonate compared to things I believe and people I met in esoteric study. Well, the fact that you're even saying it's an issue of what resonates with you is saying, again, you're not taking this seriously as an idea. If you're just believing in things because they sound fun or they resonate with you, that's inconsequential. You want to believe in things because they're true. And he said, I find my truth there. What is your perspective? Yeah, it's not you're not even finding your truth. You're just finding some idea you like. So that's not. Yeah, and of course the fact that you're talking about higher level Masonry, I think that describes it's self-explanatory. Like that is Masonry, that is Luciferianism, this idea that like there's some kind of knowledge that's independent of everything that is the highest. It's a quasi-agnostic kind of thing, but here's another one. How successful was avoiding restaurants from 2023? Teaching newer generations to picnic is a challenge to me. Yeah, well, thankfully, you don't even have to teach them about restaurants because, like, they don't even do anything or not going to restaurants because they don't even do social things anyway. So they're just sitting at their home and they only go to restaurants when they're lazy to make something. So, but yeah, it went pretty well. I did when I did go on that trip to Europe, and I went to restaurants there. But for the most part, like, and restaurants have only gotten more expensive, more upsetting. I mean, I said it in that video, but it's gone well, and I think it kind of purged the habit of even thinking to go to a restaurant. It's funny to think years past, there would be times I'd be at my house and I'd be too lazy to cook something, so I'd be like, oh, I'll just drive to a restaurant. And I would never do that now. I would never. That's just the dumbest thing, you know. Now I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. So, you know, it definitely got rid of that habit. And, yeah, if you want to do picnicking as an alternative or just some kind of, I hate the term meal prep, but, you know, whatever. People do that kind of stuff. Yeah, Arthur says, hey, Luke, in your conversion, or in general throughout your life, did you ever seriously consider Islam? Yeah. I mean, I just said that. I did. I am familiar with Islam. Obviously, I looked into it, but that was years and years ago. I was just a youth, maybe your age. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know how older people who even watch my channel. I have no idea. So let's see. Sorry if I'm missing YouTube super chats. They're a little harder to look at. I'll try and pull them up like at the end, but it's just super slow. I think societal. This is one from Binary Ghosts. I think that the societal and economical pressure to specialize skill sets is what's rotting culture. Writing poetry is a waste of time if you're not a poet. Yeah, I do kind of agree with that, but I also think like an average person can write a good poem, but it has to be really inspired. Like you have to, you know, I don't know. I don't really think it something artisanal. Well, that's not artisanal in the same way that like woodworking is. Like I feel like anyone could have the inspiration to write a good poem, but yeah, it's going to be very few. And like the fact is, when kids have been shown just trash poems their entire life and they never aspire to something higher, that's just, they're never going to produce something great. I mean, people underestimate, like modern people are illiterate. Like it's important to understand, like literally illiterate, okay? And I'm very serious about that. I know, yeah, you can sound out words on a page. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, just read something. I was with someone, and you know, we took, what book was it? Easy one to look up. Edmund Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France. Okay, well, when was that written? I forget exactly. You know, the French Revolution, late 1700s. Burke was writing. I forget when exactly, but just get a snippet from either that book or something of that same time period. You know, it's in English, entirely comprehensible, grammatically comprehensible to people now, but you'll realize, like, oh, this person is thinking at a level, like, it's not the complexity of their sentences, because complexity itself isn't a sign of intelligence, but it's the fact that, like, sentences are so, they bear so much information, like the use of embedded structure, relative clauses is so communicative. Like you have a single sentence that just paints an entire picture. And people of today just don't produce that. Like they don't even aspire to, and that's a written book. But like look at I want to say like somehow a while back I was like reading the letters of like Mary Wollstonecraft or something, like the personal letters. Like you look at that and it's like so far beyond like you know, you think of a letter or a journal as being something like very personal, but again, the complexity of thought, which again, not complexity in a silly way or a pretentious way, but just this like I don't know, it's difficult to explain. You almost have to read it yourself. And you kind of realize, like, modern people just don't, like, they're not trained to write, and they're not trained to think, you know, that's something that children in the 1800s or something, early 1800s, that were relatively well educated, like, that is what they grew up in, and, like, they knew how to do that, and they knew how to, I don't know, it's just, we don't have that anymore, you know. Now it's like, oh, well, if we're lucky if we get kids to, I don't know, spell their name and stuff. Okay, super chat. When will you switch to a superior? And by the way, if I missed your super chat, again, I'll go through the big list and I'll try to get them all at the end. When you switch to a superior declarative operating system such as Geeks instead of the when he said at the beginning, instead of the antiquated imperative operating systems of yesteryear. Yeah. I'm just not. I understand there's a lot of superiority to geeks, but it's too different. I'm not interested in it right now. So that's all I can say. I think so little about computers. That's all I can say. Slobodan says, Christ is risen. Truly he's risen. Good to see you back on stream. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Christ is indeed risen. Let me check the XMR thing and the Bitcoin thing. I don't think... What are Bitcoin fees now? I'm gonna guess they're not great. I'm gonna guess they're not really good. Yeah, apparently Monero had a big blow up a while ago where it went up, I don't know, like tripled or something, and then nothing happened. You know. All right, I'm gonna. Mr. Luke, I'm just looking at the normal chat. Mr. Luke, what do you think about Frédéric Chopin's music? Do you like that kind of music? Yeah, I do, but you know, I'm not, you know. Christos anesti, halitos anesti. Luke, have you heard of or know Bread on Penguins? I am aware of her. I am very aware of, not very aware of, I'm aware of, I think I ran across her last year when I was uploading videos, and I was like, oh, this is really funny. It's just some girl online who does stuff kind of in my domain. Let's see. Mr. Luke, I saw your stream on my sidebar and my heart raced, for I was afraid of missing out. Well, you made it. At least to some degree. Man, people are... let's see. Yeah, someone said, Si nescis latine, non potes legere. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And well, that's the other thing, like the centrality of like Latin learning in like medieval education, or like or in the East, like kind of classical Greek. Because, like, you know, you look at the classical... Well, I did a video on, like, the word grammar and what it means, because in the medieval word, the thing that we call Latin, the language we call Latin, anyone in the Middle Ages would identify as being, like, grammar. Like, that's what the term is, you know? So, like, when you learn grammar... And so, like, the other thing is, like, if you're in a so-called language arts class nowadays, okay, you go there... And you study, like you learn about predicate nominatives, you learn about, you learn about nominative, accusative, objective, subjective, whatever, participles and gerunds, why do they look the same, because we're dealing in English. The truth is, all of those concepts, it's totally fruitless to even teach kids, like, so-called language arts, because it's not based on anything. Like, if they don't go through a process of learning Latin, or some other equivalently, morphologically complex language, it's useless to teach them all these terms, which in English, again, a participle and a gerund look the same way. Sure, they're used different, but, like, a kid is not going to understand that. But he learns Latin, and he's like, oh, yes. Yeah, well, like, a participle, it agrees with the noun. It looks like this in Latin. A gerund is something totally different. It works, this way. In Latin, in English, it's very opaque, what's what. So it's not like a serious, but either way, that's like the first thing I don't know. Andrew says, welcome back. I struggle with the doctrine of no grace outside of the church when philosophers like Plato understood the Logos and the Trinity, and that the Gospel of John reads as a Neoplatonic text. Catholic perennialism can definitely go too far, though. See, perennialism, so as I said before, like, you can look at paganism or any of this. I mean, I've written stuff on, like, Platonism in the past and Hermetic whatever, and I kind of regret doing that because sometimes it leads people down in those directions. But, like, again, the saints looked at that kind of stuff and took them very seriously. There is the, like, unofficial, church statement that like during the heralding of Hades, like Plato is the first among the pagans to say, oh yes, I understand, like, you know, he basically converted in the harrowing of Hades. It's not like an official doctrine, but there's at least that culture of like Greek, like there's almost like a philosophical covenant that's given to the Greeks. They're imbued with, you know, this philosophical tradition, which actually provided the linguistic machinery, or like the conceptual machinery for the ecumenical councils. That's why you're talking about like nature, hypostasis, all this kind of stuff. So there's not, like, saying something like that is not perennialism. Perennialism is much more wild, and you know, and the concept of grace outside the church, obviously, like, you know, outside of the church is not undifferentiated darkness. Like, that doesn't mean that everyone is equally wrong, equally bad, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that like saying stuff like that, or saying that the Gospel of John has talks about logos and stuff like that, obviously that's not the same thing as pagan. Like saying that like something they've said something true isn't the same thing as like perennialism. You know, that's very different. Kyle says, Christ is risen. I was baptized in the Greek church in UK on Lazarus Saturday. Thanks partially to you. I would have said an XMR, but I'm not on my computer. Thank you very much. Congratulations, newly illumined Kyle, if that is your real name. But either way, that's really good to hear. It's always good to hear when, I mean, people will still occasionally email saying like, oh, you've been this I don't know, inspiration or whatever to convert. I mean, it's nice when people say, oh, you helped me get a nice job or something like that. That's cute. That's cute. That's good too. That's really good. But it's really good when someone comes to the faith and I haven't deterred them from it. You know, let's say that. Learning linguistic terms is only useful when you're already fluent in some language that uses it. Yeah, for the most part. Right. Man, why do people keep asking me about Dostoyevsky? No, it's just the same guy. What's your opinion about Dostoyevsky? The only thing I've read is Brothers Karamazov. I really like that, actually. I read it recently. Well, recently is in like 2 years ago. That's recently for me, you know. Yeah, because and how that happened is I was at church one day. I think our priest wasn't there. I think we did a Typica. But we were talking afterwards, and I was kind of talking about I'm just not a fan of fiction. I think it's a waste of time. Or I was even specifically talking about Lord of the Rings. I'm just not a big fan of the concept of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I don't like J.R.R. Tolkien or whatever, but yeah, my baptismal sponsor, he's like, yeah, I don't disagree with you, but check out Brothers Karamazov, check out Dostoyevsky. And so I read Brothers Karamazov like the next week or so. And I was really impressed. Again, like, it's not... really, I should say, I'm not against, like, Lord of the Rings stuff, or that in general, but I think what I was saying there was that I don't like immersive fantasy fiction, like this kind of stuff that, like, kids get obsessed about, and they just eat and breathe Lord of the Rings or something like that. I think there's something, like, really degenerate about that, like, where people just... They live in these fantasy worlds, they deep dive into these kind of goofy... alternate realities, parallel planets, whatever. I'm not a big fan of that. But yeah, reading like Dostoyevsky, obviously it's not like that. I mean, it's more like a fictional novel that is like instantiating ideas and topics. Like it's almost like a dialogue. It's almost like reading a dialogue of Plato or something like that, where it's like really the whole point of Brothers Karamazov, and the reason it's so long is it's like there are a lot of discussions about God and atheism and morality and all these kind of things, and it's mediated by the events that happen. But it's almost like it's closer to, you know, talking about, you know, a dialogue, like something like Plato. All right, let's see. Let me check the XMR chat. I haven't gotten anything since. One of my favorite history authors, I'm just reading a message, was a Civil War veteran who spoke and read about 7 languages and traveled around the sites of ancient battles to write histories of great generals. Total Chad. I wonder who that is. I actually don't know who that is. But yeah, I think like knowing languages is like a good marker for kind of intelligence. Like, and I don't mean like a autistic language person. I mean, I'm not saying those guys aren't smart or whatever, but you know, one thing that's really, I mean, obviously, like, it's, maybe I should say specifically in America where people, like, don't really have reasons to learn anything but English. There's something about it when someone, you know, is going to, like, deep dive into some historical language or something. I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, I've done it to a degree myself. Like, I studied historical linguistics or whatever. But Daedalus says, have you seen the videos from the Most Holy Family Monastery on sedevacantism? Yes, of course I've seen their videos. Yeah, brothers Peter and Michael Diamond. Yeah, I used to watch their stuff a lot. Even when I was like kind of before I was converting to Orthodoxy. Like, honestly, I still watch their videos. They put stuff out, and I just like them. I just like, there's something about them. I don't recommend them. They are, like, Catholics or whatever. Well, sedevacantists or whatever, but they actually, I do appreciate that they do some original, like initial, like, first sources research, you know what I mean? Like, they'll do that. I appreciate it. And, you know, sedevacantism, I mean, when I contemplated briefly, like when I was kind of becoming, you know, a Christian again, you know, obviously you just gravitate to Orthodoxy. I think if you have a historical perspective, that's just what it is. But I did consider Catholicism, but like if I had been a Catholic, or a Roman Catholic or whatever, like I nearly certainly, I mean, you almost like have to be a sedevacantist because like, or something like that. I don't, the recognizes and resist people, I don't really understand, like the SSPX. Like, I think that's a totally contradictory stance, but, you know, like, it's very hard to ignore that the Vatican teaches stuff that is, like, the exact opposite of what they taught 100 years ago. That's just obviously true. And I appreciated their videos, like sedevacantist videos, because, like, yeah, people say they're autistic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you need a little bit of that to get someone who really cares about, like, I don't know, like, you know, he's not going to fall for the big stuff. Oh, it's easy to be a big Novus Ordo Catholic and just go to the churches, and it's fun to mock these people who don't do it, but, like, they have reasons to do it. Now, obviously, I'm not a sedevacantist. I think that's a false position because, you know, the Roman Catholic Church, it didn't, like, go wrong just in Vatican II. There are contradictions, you know, like the whole idea of the universal papacy is not only just totally ahistorical, but it's very self-contradicting. How do you explain historical events like the Papal Schism, or, you know, the Cadaver Synod, or things like this, or the anathematization of popes and stuff? Like, it makes no sense if you have this idea that the Vatican has been this, like, monarchy of the church, you know? God's the monarch of the church, you know, like that, or the bishops in general are the monarchs of the church. But I think the historical claims of Catholicism, even sedevacantists, I think they kind of fall for the same thing that Novus Ordo people do, where, like, I mean, sedevacantists at least kind of acknowledge the hypocrisies of, like, the modern Vatican II church and how they contradict what they used to teach. But I think sedevacantism, like, you know, Vatican I is not compatible with the theology or, like, the ecclesiology of even, like, the Council of Constance, right? That ended the Papal Schism, wherein, like, one of the first, not only is that council called by an anti-pope. He wasn't considered an anti-pope by most Catholics back then, but now he's considered an anti-pope. But not only was it called by an anti-pope, but, like, one of the conclusions of the council, this ecumenical council of the Catholic Church, is that the Pope is not the supreme authority of the church. The ecumenical councils are, and they have to be. And for that historical event, when there were multiple claimants to the papacy, like, you can't believe, like, you can't believe in Vatican I Catholicism. It's not, like, it's not a clear thing. So Vatican I was very much it was an innovation in the same way that Vatican II was. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. And, this isn't endorsing like the old Catholics, so-called, because they're like they're even lamer than Novus Ordo Catholics, but I don't want to belabor it. I don't want to start like feuds with Catholics either. Again, like there's a lot of good stuff in Catholicism because it's still preserved in Catholicism. I don't think they keep true to the. I think it's impossible to justify them keeping to the true faith historically, without alteration. It's just not true. But compared to when I'm working on my stuff. I'm putting at the books that I use that are behind the camera, but like when I'm working on my stuff about the Protestant Reformation, it's hard for me not to say, well, yeah, compared to the Protestants, the Catholic Church, they're the good guys. Like, there's no question about that, So I'm not saying Catholics are all bad at all, but I didn't convert to Catholicism, and I think they're wrong on on all of their distinctives from the Orthodox Church. Obviously, I think they're wrong because I became Orthodox, but sorry if I let's see. Okay, so Quadrio Chilada says, have you kept up to date with much Monero development and news over the last year, e.g. FCMP++, Cubic Attack? I forget, and POS debate. Like very superficially. I might hear about some of the stuff going on, but I don't, not even enough to know, what exactly is happening. I hope, I know a lot of the guys in the Monero world. Obviously, I've been to their conferences for the most part, but, okay. I see a bunch of people reposting, hold on, I'm going to read a super chat. I think it's surprisingly, I'm going to change the thing to slow chat because I see a lot of people reposting comments. I don't really like people doing that. I know you want my attention, but it's just it makes a better chat if you just do a donation instead. I know. Well, actually, that's shilly. I don't want to say that. Fine, you can post things multiple times if you want, but just don't do it too often. I think it's surprising that this is Binary Ghost. I think a surprising large amount of people have a problem differentiating fiction from reality. Think of all the people who hate an actor because of a role they played in a movie or a TV series. Yeah, that's definitely right. I was talking the other day. I was talking to a kid. Kind of preteen guy, and we were having this conversation about shipwrecks or something, and he started talking about the shipwreck that he heard about, and he was really going into detail, and I realized, oh, he's actually talking about a movie. I don't know what movie it is, but he was talking about a movie, but he didn't say oh, this is a movie. It's almost like he had internalized it as just something that happened, I don't think he actually felt that way, but the fact that he's not saying, oh, let me share an anecdote from a movie, I thought it was really notable to me. So, Hamid says, holy moly, you're back. Rewatched several of your videos just a few days ago. Nice to see you again, man. You're reminding me of Omarchy Linux. I'm actually not sure what that is. Funny thing is, people talk about Linux now, and I'm so clueless as to what's going on. Like the Iran-US movie? Yeah, like the Iran-US movie. I'm surprised no one's talked about that yet. I'm just, But we're all on the same page here, I assume. So that there's not much to do. Or maybe there's just internet censorship. Or maybe I've just not seen it. Let's see. Yake Fate sends in $20. Thank you. No message on that, though. Appreciate it. Let me check my emails. Luke, thoughts on the Book of Enoch? It's a scripture in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Yeah, of course I'm aware with it. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the church, very historically, here's an example, the infancy gospel of James, okay, was one of it's basically the most early non-canonical gospel, and it's probably not actually written by James, but it contains a lot of legitimate historical detail. And although the church doesn't like take it as part of the canon, it's looked at very positively and seriously by the church fathers. And I think Enoch is obviously the same way. Like, there's New Testament scripture that very explicitly talks about it, and it's very clear that people of that period took it seriously. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the same, where, you know, like, we're not Protestants. Like, Protestants have this very like binary definition of like what's the word of God and what's not, like what's the official canon of scripture. I mean, the concept of canon of scripture, that's a legitimate word to use, but the way that it's used now is really the way Protestants use it, to mean like, these are the books from which we create our religion. And that's not what canon actually means. And also, the books in the canon are not equal, you know? In church, when the epistle is being read, you don't have to stand. You do have to stand when the gospel is being read, you know? Oh, shoot. I just realized my Zelle. I don't think I can look at messages with Zelle. So if you send me a donation in Zelle, like, send an email saying who it is. Okay, so Arthur Blake. Oh, I already read that. That was the one on Islam. Let's see, from Anonymous. Are you going to upload these word studies or the aforementioned unreleased archive? Please do. Need more book reports. Also, thoughts on Kabbalah and its influence on American Protestantism, Mormonism as well. I don't actually know that much about Kabbalah. I'm not super interested. I'm just, there was a brief period where I looked into some esoteric philosophy stuff, but like, it's just, most of it's a LARP, and most of it is actually like retconned. Like, a lot of people in the 17, 18, 1900s would be making stuff up, pretending people in the Middle Ages believed it, but they didn't actually. That's the other thing about esotericism. It's kind of like, it's just like, you know, you look at the stuff that Helena Blavatsky made up, and she just made it all up. And then, you know, or like these guys like Evola or whatever, you know, he'll make these like, just like totally ambiguous statements about how things used to be that are just so general and meaningless, and I don't know. I just don't like that kind of whatever. Evgeny says, silly question, can the Orthodox Church be viewed as decentralized and the Catholic centralized versions of Christianity? Also, Notes from the Underground from Dostoyevsky is a good short novel. I have that, actually. I haven't read it. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Again, like, the Orthodox Church is centralized. I mean, God is the head. Christ is the head. I mean, the question is not about... And Catholics will actually say this kind of stuff, and I don't like it. Because they say this kind of stuff like, well, we should have a pope because, you know, Christianity is some kind of monarchy, like our governance has to be like that. And the question, like, it's not a question of what government you like or what government's more orthodox or whatever. And the question is it what Christ actually ordained? And it just isn't, you know, like, you look at people writing early on about the position of a bishop, or like the bishop is the monarch of the church, right? Not the Bishop of Rome, but all bishops are monarchs of their church. And when there is something else, some other dispute, they get together, have an ecumenical council. And over the centuries, of course, there's some bishops who had a greater administrative prominence. Like, you have patriarchs and metropolitans, but, you know, it's just not how the church, like the centrality of the church on some bishopric in Rome is just, it didn't historically happen. You know, it wasn't like that. You know, it's just untrue. So I'm not saying that you're saying this, but like, I've heard Catholics say, oh, well, we should have this, you know, God is like the monarch of the world, so the Pope should be the monarch of the church. And it's like, yeah, it's not how, you know, God's the monarch, Christ is the monarch of the church. You know, the Holy Spirit leads the that's why we have ecumenical councils. If he really were the linchpin, the Pope of Rome were really the linchpin of the church, we wouldn't need ecumenical councils. Just ask the infallible guy, you know. And Roman Catholic councils since then, like Vatican II, is mostly like administrative. Like, there's no theological debate about it, right? Vatican II wasn't, there's not like that much debate. It's not like they're trying to hair split, is Arianism Orthodox or not? Because if that's what they were doing, the Pope could just say yes or no, right? But Catholic councils have kind of become like, because they now believe in this infallible papacy, their ecumenical councils have become something totally different. They've become, I don't know, just like almost like administrative. Anyway, let's see. Let's look at some more of these. Porphyria says, Christ is risen. Truly, he's risen. Yeah. I feel kind of weird, like, streaming right after Pascha. Like, it kind of feels funny to do that. Which, by the way, when I started converting to Orthodoxy, I always thought it was kind of LARPy that, like, Orthodox Christians refer to Easter, quote unquote, as Pascha. But the thing is, it actually, here's the irony. Here's like kind of the Protestant rewriting of the word. It used to be in English, the word for Easter was, P-A-S-K, Pasch. That was the word for Easter. And no one's ever heard that word now. But in Bible translations, like in the Middle Ages and stuff, or what people called the holiday was Pasch. And they got it from the Greek word. And the Greek word is different. It's not just an arbitrary word. The word Pascha in Greek means a couple different things. It refers to the holiday. It refers to Passover. But it also refers to the sacrificial lamb, which is Christ, That's why, in church, in, English, you sing, a new and sacred Pascha is revealed to us. A mystical Pascha, like you're not singing about the holiday, you're singing about Christ, the sacrificial lamb. So that linguistically is lost because now you can't, in Orthodoxese nowadays we say Pascha, or in traditional English you would say Pasch. But what happened is when you had, who was it? Is it like the Wycliffe? I'm gonna forget. So there was a proto-Protestant who started. This is like one of the names that like normally would be on the tip of my tongue unless I were live streaming. But when you had your first like maybe it was in the Lollard movement, if I'm remembering correctly. But like the translations of the Bible, they would deliberately desacramentalize words. So instead of saying like church, they would say something like assembly, or maybe it was something different. I forget exactly. Or instead of saying like priest, which is what the word, which comes from the Greek word presbyteros, which it's translating, they would retranslate that, reintegrate it as being elder or something. So there was a early Protestant translation that basically created these new words like elder for priest and overseer for bishop and assembly for church, and but one of them was Easter for Pascha, right? And the word Pasch just totally disappeared from the English language. Now it just sounds kind of weird and LARPy. So that's why Orthodox Christians have like recreated that word kind of. You almost need it because whatever. Clement says, are you financially free from the system? Any tips for a Zoomer in this day and age? What's financially free? I mean, when we're talking about the system, you got to be clear about what that means. Like you want to be flexible. You want to have skills that can be moved, or skills that like in tough times are going to serve you. But, no one's going to be Robinson Crusoe perfectly. I'm actually, I say things positively about like homesteading, but like homesteading itself, like the idea of me making my own little, it's either going to be me by myself or like me and maybe my family or something like that, living, like just providing for everything for ourselves. That is a LARP, and like a lot of people get hurt by that. Like you really need just a local village, local community. That's the real goal. So, but yeah, being free from the system, be that big corporations, obviously I haven't been employed by some big company. I'm actually open to doing contracting work at this point. But I don't know, maybe I'm a diva and I'm very, like, I'd rather earn less money and be freer than, sign up for something that I don't know. Strawberry says, Christ is risen. By the way, Luke, are you aware that there's a meme on Soyjack Party about you being Loot, the creator of Jardy? So I've been aware, like, people spam, I think they're spamming the chat about something like that. I have no connection to that site. It was some kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, and I don't know. Some weird schizoid 4chan-like site, and they spam my videos occasionally. I don't know. I have no connection. It's just, I think, like, the guy who made the site, like, used my likeness, like, used my photo as a profile. I have no association. Like, sometimes I'll, like, block those comments because they're just spam. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of weird, but I have no association with it. I am aware of that. Let's see. $20 from... Oh, I already read that. Poor Fury saying just Christ is risen. Truly, he's risen again. Let's see. Okay, so Kerbex says, this is Matthew. So I wanted to ask for potential clarification on original sin. I have no problem with God punishing Adam and Eve by expelling them from the Garden of Eden, nor with the seeming change in their bodies, toiling of the earth, pain of child rearing. My issue is how this punishment carries over to their children, Cain and Abel, and the rest of humanity, and how that's consistent with God's described nature of all loving and wholly just. Like, yeah, so it's not exactly the same as... I don't know if you're asking, like, how's it different from Catholicism or something. Like, I mean, the fact is, like, your actions and your sins do affect other things in the world. That's just how it is. And, how as an Orthodox Christian you look at suffering and pain is, like, suffering is a means of salvation. Like, it's a means of having... It's a means of you, like, being... read Paul on with his letter to Philippians, where he's talking about Christians who are unjustly facing persecutions at the hands of the Jews and then the Romans. And I think it's pretty clear that, like, how we should look at the suffering of the world is as an opportunity for us to purge ourselves from passions and, ultimately, like, find, like, it's almost like the disease is its own medicine, So you in the case of Adam and Eve or anyone else, a parent's sin affects his children, but it's also a message of what the reality of sin, the reality of God, the reality of the ideal, and how people fall from it. So I don't think it's exactly right to look at it as, like, being God's punishment and all. Like you can look at it as God's punishment, but it's also just, this is how he's constructed the world for us to deal with temptations, for us to deal with trials and to overcome them. And, I think I have on my website, maybe on my contact page, like a quote from the prologue about, maybe it was St. Macarius or something like that, who just, he had, it just quotes, it says something like, he was a monk who attained such a level of holiness he couldn't even see the evil in the world, where when there were bad things happening, he always dealt with them in the most joyous way. And that's what St. Paul talks about in the letter to Philippians and elsewhere. That doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time, but it's important to remember that, like, that suffering and that what seems like a punishment, or sometimes a punishment not even of ourselves, is really for us. So all right, let me adjust. Sorry, let me fix up the frame rate. Okay. Did you see that they changed the venue for Self? No more vaporwave vibes. Sad, many such cases. Yeah, I saw it'll be funny to see. I wonder what that hotel's like. Yeah, frankly, it was a little rundown. I know they had a good relationship with that hotel, but now I'm like, what am I going to use my free Marriott night for? I don't even know. Maybe the other one's, like, a lot better or something. You asked about age. I've been watching you since I was 12, 22 now. That's crazy. It's crazy that I've been on, like, I feel like I just started my YouTube channel. It is fun. Like, I know that it's been, like, nearly 10 years now, but it just feels like I just started it. Anyway, I'm considering going without internet at home, like you did for 2 years. Any advice or helpful tips on living that lifestyle? Just do it. I think it in itself, it will provide you enough opportunities for you to figure out how to do things. Like if there's anything you need to figure out, you're gonna have to figure it out. But ultimately, I think it's all gain. I think if you get bored, you're gonna find stuff to do and find productive stuff to do. And again, if I hadn't done that time without internet, like I wouldn't have this YouTube channel, because I wouldn't have. I mean, obviously, I initially started it. I mean, I did different videos at the beginning, but the thing that, like, obviously I would do videos consistently about was Linux. And that's a time when I was, like, learning how to use GNU Linux and stuff like that. But Clement says, in your blog, you spoke about being repeat pilled. Can you elaborate on that? What do you usually eat? I mean, I'm not, like, I think I might have a link to, like, Ray Pete's site. I'm not, like, a massive Ray Pete, like, I'm not over the top, like, a fan. Well, I don't want to say that. I respect him. I think he's done, like, a lot of, like, all the medical research and papers I've seen him write are, like, pretty impressive. And obviously he's good on PUFAs and other stuff, and I think most of what I eat is pretty Pete compatible, but I don't, like, I definitely, I know there's, like, a big, kind of, like, Twitter movement of people who love his stuff and just, like, almost, like, make up their own religions about him, like, or not, really their own diets and their own stuff that maybe he wouldn't even endorse. But I just appreciate him. And, I was talking about, like, an hour or so ago, have I been on that long? I was talking a while ago about, on the stream, about, like, you don't really have really erudite, intelligent, well-read people. Pete, I'm not saying he's a fantastic writer or something, but you really get the impression reading his stuff that he knows ins and outs, everything he's supposed to, like, he really groks his subject matter. It's a shame the word grok is now associated with the AI, because it's not like I use that word that often, but when I do, it's like it's very important to have that specific meaning. But now it's ruined by Elon Musk's goofy AI. But okay, let's see what else. Okay, my chat. Is the internet even on right now? Sorry, my chat is not reloading. Okay, alright, I'm gonna look at the chat. Do you have any thoughts on Jacques Ellul's works? I've read Technology and Propaganda, but I'm thinking about digging into his religious works, if there's anything you recommend. Yeah, I mean, like, he's some kind of, like, idiosyncratic, like, Protestant of some sort. Yeah, people get into him because he was, like, inspiration for... can I say his name? Like, I know we used to talk about that certain guy who sent certain dangerous packages to people, but I think that's, like... YouTube is now, like, banning videos that, like, talked about him. Like, I've gotten... like, in the time of me going off the internet, they will, like, give me strikes for, like, mentioning that certain person who became a meme that might I don't know, who wrote a certain manifesto, that guy. But either way, Ellul was, like, an intellectual influence on him. Just kind of, like, eco-anarchism kind of stuff. But, either way, I'm not a big fan of... I know he has some kind of, like, I don't know... Oh, people are saying I can say him. I'm not gonna talk about him, but, I'll be careful. I think it's silly. But I also think, like, the memes with him went too far. I know, like, people make them about my channel. I think maybe even that little channel icon in the corner of my channel might still be related to him. Or like, might be that, like, boomer redo. But, like... those memes passed, like, as far as I'm concerned. All memes pass. Like, they eventually go away, so I just stopped finding them funny. Why do you link a site that lies about math on your site, Miles Mathis? Because I appreciate lies. Okay, shut up. I appreciate Miles Mathis's, like, just kind of, like, off the wall. Like, some of his writings, I think, are really concise, and I just like stuff he does. I appreciate that genre of person who just, like, You might say, oh, he doesn't believe it. And actually, Miles Mathis, like, if you look at his politics site, it's all kind of schizo, like, everything's a conspiracy. Like, literally, everything, including that person we just talked about, he thinks that he's an inside job. Everything's an inside job. That doesn't mean I endorse him personally. It just means I appreciate some of his writings. And I like the concept of someone, like, just putting out kind of writings like that. And, yeah, all memes could become dead. Yeah, a lot of memes, they just hot memes now. I still consider nothing ever happens kind of hot. Like, I still, like, in real life, I'll occasionally say that. That's one of the few memes I let myself actually say in public. But it's kind of like tongue in cheek. All memes are tongue in cheek, right? But in general, you know, let's keep the internet away from real life. Actually, yeah, doing the stream hasn't been as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, that seems rude. You know what I mean. I just mean, like, sometimes people just, you know, they're focused on funny stuff. But we're having a good, you know, different, let's see, different topics here, good topics. Enough people chiming in to make it interesting. All right. Anon says, big fan of Father John at St. Mary of Egypt in Roswell. Yeah, isn't everyone? He's a untapped. I don't know. People don't know about him. He's a great man, I think. He does really good stuff. He's founding. You know, he helps to found a lot of parishes. So that's all I can say. I think I've had a lot of friends who meet him, and you see a grace with him. You know, you just feel, even people who have met him who are not Orthodox or Catholic or Protestants or atheists, they feel a grace with him. You know, that's all I can say. So, yeah, pretty much everyone who meets him will say something like that. Like, let's see. I've been living more in sync with sunrise and sunset throughout the seasons and have been feeling way better. I'm chronically ill, but I feel kind of guilty at times when I think of the monks that are so rigid and consistent with their schedule. Well, I mean, a lot of it comes from I think for a lay person, let's be real, like, being in sync with the sun is about as good as you can do, you know, so, like, don't be upset about it. I mean, monks, like, some monks who are, like, and not every monk is, like, an Athonite monk that only sleeps, like, 3 or 4 hours, you know, they're not all like that, but, you know, yeah, a lot of them rise really early, but for the lay person, let's be real, like, if you rise and sleep with the sun, that's actually really good. So that's all I can say. Yeah. Will you make other content about software and Linux? I mean, if I feel like it, but the thing is, with Linux, I just don't... you know, I've been saying this for years. Like, there was a period in, like, 2018 or so when I'm like, okay, I'm going to do videos on all the programs that I've started using in Linux. And I was never, like, a program reviewer or whatever. Like, I'm not... There are some guys out there who just... Oh, here's a new program. I'm gonna use it and review it. And I'm just not a big fan of that. I'll showcase stuff that I use, but once I went through all those programs and once I did some general topic videos, it's like there's only so much I can do that isn't just like me live streaming like a random project I'm working on, you know, like that's basically the only thing I could do, and that would be really distracting. Now, I actually have a project I'm cooking up now. It's not a software project. It's almost like a website project. It's very simple. I'm actually doing it on Hugo right now, but I might change. Let's see. Hi, Luke. On one side, you support crypto, but on another, you seem to be against the idea of a techno-state. How do you cope with the idea that technology might be used to implement the end time? Well, everything that exists is going to be used to implement the end time. It's all one complex system. But I mean, when it comes to crypto, especially like crypto, I mean, take it like people paying stuff online. Like let's say even this live stream, you can use crypto, which is, you know, in the case of Monero, anonymous, and Bitcoin, pseudo-anonymous. Or you can use the same kind of technology and have something done more or less more inefficiently and centralized by some kind of central banking app and system. So from my viewpoint, it's not now if I'm in person, like, am I going to take Monero on a phone or am I going to take cash? I'd rather have cash, even though it might be better to hold Monero or something like that, because I like that stuff in real life. But when we're already talking about internet payments, and the question is either Monero or Bitcoin or, fiat, dollar transfer, yeah, of course, crypto is better than that. I mean, it's let's say more ethical in the way that free software people say it. It's more ethical. Joe Bob says, do you people in the weak superior Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? There's a verb missing there. Reddit told me this is the correct opinion to have, like the Sapir-Whorf or not Sapir-Whorf. So I will say in academia, people really hate, like in modern American Chomskyan or Chomskyan adjacent linguistics, people really, really hate the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and they mock it, in fact. They mock it even while, like, frankly, that community of people, they just have, like, the modern linguistic academics, they just have, like, a weird hodgepodge of contradictory beliefs. Like, they might be radical, like, they might believe in nurture versus nature for most things, but for whatever reason, they don't believe in the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. I think some degree, like, does language affect how you think? Sure, to some, like, limited degree, but I think it's more like if you hone your linguistic ability, or if you hone, let's say what I was talking before about a writing or reading ability, that does change the way, like, it creates more complex structures of thought in your head because you're used to, I mean, it's kind of like, imagine like your brain, your mental world is like a forest, right? Where you could walk certain ways, and as you walk those ways a whole lot, you slowly create a path, like a footpath. I think it's something like that, where if you deliberately, if language or the use of language leads you in a certain way to think about certain things in certain ways, you are going to be, more aware of them. If you have more colors in your language, you're like, let's say you speak one of those languages that only has 3 colors in it. That doesn't mean you only see 3 colors, but you are maybe less likely to distinguish violet and purple, which I always forget which violet and purple, what's the division? I don't know. Whatever. Who knows? I don't know. I know they're different, but I forget which one's which is the lighter or darker one. I don't know. But either way, I think there's some reality to it, but obviously I'm not, most of human cognition is more or less, just there. It's natural. It matures with you. I think people put way too much emphasis on some things, but I don't know. Like, I could argue it from both sides. I think it's silly to say that your language doesn't affect how you think in some domains. Like, let's say one salient example is like, if you say in English, like, I don't know, this fell, or something like that. Like, there's some languages where you'd say something like, it fell, or let's say I lost my keys. There's some languages where you'd say the keys got lost on me or something. I think there might be a subtle, like in English, almost like you're taking more responsibility for it. It's the subject, like I lost my keys, even though lost is not some kind of unarrogant, like I'm doing it on purpose. But I feel like in English, like compared to Spanish, like when you say it in Spanish where it's like an affected dative, it feels like you're taking more responsibility for it in English, whereas in Spanish it's like, it's kind of like it happened to me or something, that's what I think there is a subtle reality to that, but obviously people of both languages can kind of understand that. All right. Let's see. Someone asked about Professor Jong, or Jiang, however he pronounces it. I have no idea. All I know is I always see those videos recommended, and I never click on them. I know that's some kind of minor celebrity of the notice, or of the moment. Sorry, reading words while I'm. Let's see here. I like how someone sent me a money request on PayPal, but I'll read it anyway, because it seemed like he actually intended to donate money. I will not give you the €5 though. Do you think that language learning will become obsolete due to AI applied to real-time translation? Like, what would be the point of learning Chinese to speak with a Chinese person? Because like that, think about real life. Don't think about the computer. Like, think about being there, talking to a person. I mean, A, that's number one. B, like I just don't trust these AIs. You know, I just don't. They're too many. There's too much blindness. You know what? One little video I don't know if I actually recorded this, but I just want to make a comment on this where it's like, to some degree, AI is never. It can't really be free software. Now, obviously, literally, it can be free and open source software, but that's not what I'm getting at. It's more that, like, when you say, I want software to be free and open source, you can look at the source code and you can see the chains of logic that define the behavior of the program. AI, although you can look at the algorithms that process data, how the intermediate steps and nodes work in that AI is so complex that it's senseless. Like, you know, knowing the code, having the code of the AI and even the data it's trained on doesn't really tell you how it works. You know, that's kind of, yeah, you can replicate it, but it's not exactly the same as being able to see like how. So all this to say, yeah, like it's not exactly the same. Like if you have some kind of algorithmically defined language in like a, you know, like a kind of a post system, like in the way that like Chomsky was doing back in the 50s. If you have something like that, that's something totally different from an AI. It's just, I don't know, like, there's just like something uniquely, just because you do something doesn't mean like you understand like the inner workings of it. And I guess, you know, for me, maybe I'm too theoretical with some things. Like, I know AI just works, but I guess like in general, especially in an academic domain, again, I was exposed to AI, I don't know, whenever I was still in my PhD program, and you know, like that's the first time I saw LLMs and stuff, and this was like 10 years ago. This is way before AI became a fad, but like from an academic perspective, I was always like, well, this is an interesting tool, but it's actually meaningless for anything in academia. You have an algorithm that can, like, given inputs, it'll give certain outputs you want. That is like kind of you know, kind of learns from, you know, what you want. That's not, it doesn't actually tell you anything about the architecture of language if you're replicating, if you're just creating some kind of algorithm that can approximate what human language is doing without actually, and frankly, that was my critique of Chomskyan linguistics in the same way, but this AI stuff just does it way more bigger and clumsier, and even though it has like better practical results, it's like almost like, I want to say philosophically meaningless, like humanly meaningless. Like it's not telling us anything about how language is actually processed or what it actually is. And of course, the whole domain of semantics, true semantics, like qualia, is totally just inaccessible from AI or whatever. Okay. Anonymous question. Have you ever been to Montreal? I cannot recommend it enough as someone who grew up in the country. I think that a walkable city is better, easier for dating, making friends, and meeting interesting people, doing interesting things. I think retreating is a cope. It all depends on what city and where. I could totally imagine myself living in a city. So I think like in America, especially when you have car-dominated cities with a lot of crime, cities that aren't very livable anyway, you're driving everywhere anyway. Yeah, it makes perfect. Yeah, you should be moving to the country more or less. But yeah, a walkable city. Like I've lived in walkable cities recently. Like recently again, my sense of recently is, I guess I'm old. But yeah, I mean, throughout all my 20s, I was living in either cities that were walkable or cities that I forced to be walkable by how I chose where to work and live, you know. So yeah, I think if you can live well in a big city, there's nothing wrong with that. But in the United States, and there are some exceptions, but for the most part in the United States, it's not a livable place. But, you know, there's some cities I do go through, like the other year I think I went through like randomly Huntington, West Virginia, and I was like, oh wow, like you could live here without a car, you know, like there are cars all over the place, but it still is like a reasonably walkable city, and there are lots of other ones like that, you know. Actually, it wasn't that walkable, but it was just kind of nice. Maybe I just had a good impression of it. But you know, it's definitely doable. So, all right. Ooh, every time I turn on the Clement says, is wanting to automate everything with LLM demonic? It certainly seems so to me. That's all I have to say. So, Christian the Chicken, God bless you, Luke. Always nice to see you pop up on my feed. Did you ever get into the medieval scholastics, or is that too Roman for you? Oh, I was into medieval scholastics way before I became Orthodox. Because I read Latin a lot better than Greek, and I still do. Like, oh yeah, I was into. I read a lot of Bacon's works, including some that weren't translated into English. I read the Summa, stuff like that. In a degree, like it was like a bridge that led me to Orthodoxy. But you know, I don't recommend people to like go out and read them, because I think they are like, I think that whole like frame of thought is a little off. Like the whole trying to integrate all knowledge and like argue. It is almost like a quasi perennialism. Like it still holds on to Christianity in some degree, but like it is this idea of like integrating. I ran across a Protestant scholastic. Obviously Protestants can't really be scholastic, but a self-identified Protestant scholastic, and he made this point, and it really, his perspective is like super ecumenical. Like everyone who vaguely calls themselves Christian is a true Christian, you know, like kind of and there's no different, like everything, we're all just seeing an elephant in different parts and we're all the same, blah blah blah, which is a very silly and wrong notion. But he made this comment that I think portrays how he, but also scholastics, see things, and it's that if there's a disagreement, you make a distinction. You say, oh, well, these two people are saying superficially opposite things, but here, if we make this distinction, we see, oh, actually, they're secretly on the same page. And I just think that's nonsense. That's firstly, it's just untrue. Okay, it's just like a denial of reality. Like, and like that guy in particular, he wouldn't have said that of like. He wouldn't have said, like, Muslims believe the same thing as Christians. He just wants to, like, integrate. He wants to be able to say Orthodoxy is true, but also, like, as far out in the margins as him, that's true as well, you know. That's kind of where he... So either way, scholastics, I think, it's not like they think about things in the same way, but their mechanism is the same, where they're always integrative. They always want to... They basically have the idea that no one has ever been wrong about anything. I'm using hyperbole here, but to a degree, that's what some of them assume, you know. And obviously that not exactly, like, obviously, you know, they're not claiming to be Muslims or whatever, but, you know, or that Muslims are the same or something, but that's just, you know, that's where it leads. I think if you take it too seriously, it leads to a kind of perennialism. And, you know, one thing as well, you know, there's a lot of Orthodox stuff online, a lot of apologetic stuff, all this kind of stuff. And I will say, I think there's a huge amount of, like, unnecessary tone policing. And what I mean by that is, if you look at, like, early saints, like, when they dealt with heresies that were, like, pretty adjacent to Orthodoxy, the, like, vociferousness and, like, the fullness of the condemnation is just undeniable. They don't mince words about who's a heretic, who believes in a soul-killing idea or something like that. They don't mince words about any of that kind of stuff. And I think people nowadays, you know, now it's like, oh, people say, I don't like Jay Dyer's tone or something, you know, and they get upset about... I mean, frankly, compared to the saints, I think we're super lax. Even like the most... Now, this isn't me endorsing like bad things that people do, or just like cruel things that people might do or say. But just in general, I think people are very, like, there's some people who, particularly, often Protestants, who say very false and egregious and soul-killing things about the Orthodox Church. And I think people online, they almost get like lazy about it, or they're kind of, thinking all about optics and stuff, and there is a place for that. But at the same time, like, we have to be totally clear who's right and wrong, and like, there's nothing wrong with being very clear about where the distinctions lie, like between the Orthodox Church and outside, I mean, look at the stuff going on in the Middle East, just as an example. There are a lot of people in the West who have this idea of what a Christian is, or what a Christian believes, or a Christian's politics that's based on Schofield Bible, Zionist Protestantism, which is one of the most abominable anti-Christian religion. Like, this isn't me saying that all those people are bad or everything they believe is wrong, but like, there's a bunch of like we want to make sure that we are differentiating ourselves from those people. We're not saying, oh, they're all the same as us. They're not the same as us. We don't believe that. And and frankly, we don't want to, because if we say that there's no difference, then we're also signing ourselves up to, when they do something egregious, when they're killing people in the Middle East or in whatever, and not just whatever country, and basically all of them, and they're endorsing it, then we're signing ourselves up to be on their side, and it is, especially when this isn't me endorsing the other side either, say in the context of Israel and Iran. Both are governments that are anti-Christian, to different levels, to different, let's say, overtness. Obviously, Israel has to keep up this kind of pretense, because they have all these like Protestant funders. But at the same time, you look at like Gaza or like the Palestine issue. It's like, no, like, some of the biggest victims are Christians who are being persecuted by the Israelis and stuff. So either way, all that's just a little example. I don't really want to get too much in those, but that domain. But I'll just say it's important for Orthodox Christians, I think, not to shy away from being clear about where the distinctions are, and not, I don't know, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to have to defend. Well, you get my point. You get my point. So, let's see. Okay, sorry, a lot of messages since Luke, please come to Palestine. Well, once it's easy to travel, or, I can't say anything too bad about Israel, just in case I do end up going to Palestine at some point, But, and, the tricky thing is, like, you also don't want to be too, listen, I know guys who have converted from, like, Jewish backgrounds. Like, that does happen. Like, they, who infuriate their families by converting, and, like, there's something really, it's a tricky, it's a tricky, like, needle to thread, let's say. But listen, most of the apostles obviously had, like, Jewish backgrounds and stuff, and, like, I don't know, like, when it comes to these kind of geopolitical hot button issues, it's important for us, again, like, you don't want to be too emotionally connected to something that you don't control. That's kind of what I said. And remember that any side can repent. That's the good news. Anyone can repent. So, like, don't say anything too egregious about the people, even who are doing terrible things. Even the stuff, again, like, I want to be really clear, about, in all even the Protestants or whatever, the Zionist Protestants I'm just talking about, like, you do have to be open for them. You do have to be like, listen, you might not have the full picture here, but at the same time, make sure that they know that there's a difference between authentic Orthodox Christianity and what they're believing, what they're doing, how recent what they believe is, But anyway. So Michael says, will you continue to translate out-of-print books? I bought a few of them and enjoyed them. Thank you for everything you have done. Yeah. Let's see. Christos. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I think the message messed up at the end, but he said, Christ have mercy at the end. Yeah, well, firstly, a lot of the books on Lindy Press, like, I don't think I've translated any of those. I think those are mostly, like, public. I'm trying to remember. I know I was translating St. Brendan's Navigation. I actually am kind of done with that, because there was no good public domain translation, but I want to put that in a collection of, like, Celtic or British, or, like, including maybe English saints. So, and I also want to go over my translation and make it nice. But yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, I will continue to do that. Like the lindypress.net, the site still works. It still fulfills orders all the time. I did put up Gesta Francorum in Latin a little bit ago, and that's like a eyewitness account of the First Crusade. A friend of mine wanted it, so I did it, and so it's now for sale for public. And if anyone else wants something, tell me. Note from Luke. Hi, Luke. Great to see you streaming again. I am married with a family now. I think your last stream, I was just reverting to Catholicism. Your videos had quite an influence on me. Tempted to do any meetups in Europe anytime soon. I was the guy suggesting you visit Malta. Yes, I remember you. I do remember you. I remember, I remember this conversation. And I can't tell you. There's a chance that I might be in Europe in the next year or so. I really don't like going to Europe, but there are occasionally reasons. I don't like going to Europe, but there are occasionally reasons I have to go. No, it's just but usually when I go, I stay for a long time. So, but Malta, there's a small chance. There's a small chance. If I'm like going on a through flight, like there are flights I might need to make. Anyway, no plans right now. No plans right now. I'll say that. But I nearly certainly will be back in Europe sometime soon. Meaning maybe a couple years. But it would be nice to meet you. I know you've been a long-time commenter, other Luke. So, yeah, it's funny, like, I turned this thing back on, and I see some people who have been here, like, almost, like, the whole time. Like, haven't, still using their old accounts or whatever. It's really cool. How much of the Orthodox silence on Protestant heresy stems from fear of not being knowledgeable enough to win a debate? Definitely nearly none of it. I think when it comes to Protestant, I think like some, like other more, there might be other debate things that there's kind of an issue with, but I think when it comes to Protestantism, it's all optics. A lot of these guys, or it's either optics or, they know how to win a debate, but like almost like a debate that a Protestant doesn't care about. So like most of the like apologetic anti-Orthodox stuff, or like most of that kind of stuff like focuses on stuff like your normal Protestant you meet in the street just doesn't know or doesn't care about, and they're not really open to it. It focuses on like more academic issues, historical issues, which yes, a segment of those of people are going to be interested in, but like what I'm just saying is no, I think really all I can say is, although I don't really engage in kind of the apologetics domain, it's not my kind of thing. I could be involved in that peripherally. Again, I could write like an instructive essay or something, but although I'm not in that domain, I don't like it when people criticize people for maybe being vociferous or clear about like, yeah, this is what we believe, we don't believe that, that's a bad argument, etc., etc. Because what a lot of Protestants do, like the kind of effeminate voice, like soft boy, oh, I'm just what a lot of them do is they throw mud on issues. They say, hey, we're all buddies, we all believe the same stuff, and then they say abominable things. They say ridiculous things, and it's like an emotional kind of it's an emotional technique that needs to be called out. That's what I think. And you could do it in an appropriate, non-emotional. I mean, you can be vocal about it, but I'm just saying, like, you can do it. You can highlight that in appropriate ways. And again, like, we don't necessarily want to endorse the kind of stuff. Let's see. Just turn off the chat and enjoy the video. You'll keep your sanity that way. Oh, is there bad stuff in the chat? I just looked at it and saw that. So, yeah, I recommend that too. That's what I do. I mean, that's how you keep sane on the internet. You do your own thing. You put up your own stuff. Don't look at comments, chats, all this kind of. The internet was way better when it was like a one-way method of communication where people put stuff up. You have your personal website. There's no commenting and subscribing. Like if someone wanted to say something, they can email you. You know, it was a lot better back then. You know, people, they just get focused on silly things. Oh, excuse me. All right. So, another message from Luke. I do a lot of traveling. We actually live in the UK, and my wife is. I'm sorry if you. I hope you don't intend to dox yourself, but he says his wife is French. Point being, if Malta doesn't work, I definitely will be in Britain. I definitely will be in Britain. So, if I will write that down to contact you. If you want, you can email me whereabout you live. I won't read it out, obviously. But if you live close to London, like I'll be commuting in there. But if you live somewhere else in the UK, frankly, I've been to the UK, but only really to London, like almost like commuting. You know, but I haven't gone that far out of the London metropolitan area. Which, man, listen, I know Europeans and stuff or British people complain about how bad London is now, and I'm sure that's true. It's still so much not as bad as American cities. It's just so much. All right. Luke, what is your favorite time in your life? That's a hard... Like, there are so many, like, memorable times. One little fun time that I remember about my life is actually back in 2018 when I was doing a lot of videos here, like when I first started kind of YouTube stuff, like almost like semi-regularly. But it wasn't because of YouTube. Like, I lived in this apartment in Statesboro, Georgia, super close to the university. And I basically had all my time. Nominally, I had some work online to do, and that's when I worked as a carpenter briefly. I had a full-time job doing that. But somehow I just ended up with so much free time, and I would just hang out at the university, read whatever book. That's when I started Not Related. I just remember that, and like the funny thing is, socially, I was almost totally alone. Like I moved to this town, I didn't have any friends. Like I met people at church, but like, and I hung out with them like once or twice a week. But for the most part, I very much like did whatever I want, whenever I wanted. And it wasn't like a waste. Like sometimes, like I remember when I was a kid, you know, I'd get a summer break and I'd just waste it, you know? And that's the worst thing you can do as a kid, like, especially as a teenager when, you know, you're almost competent enough to do stuff or learn stuff. But I just feel like that year of my life, I don't want to say it's the best year of my life, because in a way, like, again, it was kind of unsocial. I didn't, like, see that many people, but it was, like, very productive. It was very kind of fun. Even though I kind of lived in a lame kind of place, lived without a car, too. It's not a walkable city, but I made it a walkable city. All right, I'm going to have to take a break briefly. But I'll just see if there's any other. You're living the life, Luke. Yeah, it was living the life. Or I don't know if you're talking about now. You don't know what life I live. Do you still have the same opinion on AI? Yes, I do. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to turn off the microphone and webcam. I'll be back in probably 10 seconds. A minute. Don't leave. Actually, I'll just mute. All right, back at it. All right. Let me refresh everything. Okay. Anonymous says there's a lot of talk from Democratic leadership. You know, the funny thing in the like when in the bathroom, I was like, oh, it's funny. I haven't gotten like, I'm almost like relieved I haven't gotten like political questions. But either way, here's one. There's a lot of talk from Democratic leadership that in 2028, if they win, they'll crack down on the right wing. What do you think that'll look like if they follow through with it? I mean, it's like, dude, what's the difference? Like, Trump got elected in 2016 and they cracked down on the right wing. You know, like, I don't know. Like, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make a big difference. And I think even a lot of the people who were banned back in 2016, they're, you know, in some, you know, I feel for them or whatever. But at the same time, a lot of them they knew what they were doing. You know, like, getting banned from places isn't, like, I mean, I've gotten a million strikes on YouTube over the years, and, you know, it's just how they come for you all the time, but you got to be careful with what you put up. You got to be subtle. You got to be likable. And you got, like, the other thing is, like, I don't like people who do just politics in general. Like, I just don't trust that. Like, I'd rather, if you're a guy that's decently well-rounded and you have stuff to say about public affairs, so be it. But, you know, it's kind of like, if you're in a repressive country, what you don't want to do is go out and talk about, like, oh, I don't like the government, what they're doing, blah, 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 all the time. You want to do your thing, and if a comment comes up or something, some opportunity arises for you to be proportionate and nudge things in the direction that's better, by all means do it. But I don't know. Like, I'm not that worried. I'm almost like more worried about, like, this whole Trump's second term has been an absolute disaster. Obviously, like, it's been so bad. It's been like worse. Like, and, to be clear, like, when the election ran around, now I got a bunch of friends, people at my church, whoever, lots of people I know voted for Trump. And honestly, when it happened during that election, I'm like, listen, I understand where you're coming from. The Biden years, like those kind of crackdowns were really bad. And it was great to see a repudiation of that kind of stuff. But for me, the issues that made it impossible for me to endorse or like or enjoy Trump is, I mean, it's twofold. And it both has to do with wars and church stuff, persecution of Orthodox Christians, which, well, coincidentally, that really is the center of it. Number one, it is Trump's fault. It is Trump's doing, even if inadvertently, the whole Ukraine crisis, and I'm not just talking about the war, I'm talking about the Ukraine schism. That is Trump. That is Mike Pompeo. That is, now, the Clintons and blah, 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 they're involved too. Yes, there's a bunch of stuff going on, but that is such an easy thing. Like, Trump could have totally avoided that. He could have cooled things down with Russia, in a good sense, like, cooled down the passions, avoided the Ukraine crisis in terms of the war. Terrible war. People are just being killed all over the place. But also the schism, which is almost like, in a spiritual sense, it might. I just pray that will not be a permanent rift. That would be disastrous, and that would be that almost bigger than the war itself in the grand scheme of things. But so that's one of the issues. Issue number two is obviously Trump. Trump has always given some kind of endorsement to, like, Zionism in the same way most Republicans and Democrats, let's be real, Democrats, they're both pro-Zionist. Republicans might be more vociferous about it, but, like, when Trump lost the first time, he went 100% like, I am doing whatever they tell me. I'm doing anything. They're going to help me get back into the presidency, and I'm giving them everything they want in the Middle East. So Trump gets elected. Oh, suddenly, even before he takes office, you see this, all of a sudden, the Syrian army is laying down their arms. There probably was so much happening there that we don't even know. Syria falls, okay? Then you have this Gaza, well, really, I guess the Gaza stuff started beforehand, but that's a big issue for them. And now, like, I actually didn't think it'd get as far as it did with the whole Iran stuff, but, like, that it's not totally unforeseeable. So, listen, if you voted for Trump for some kind of There are reasons to like identify with him in some general sense, just because, well, not really, not with him, but like I don't like the alternative. But it's like the classic Ben Garrison cartoon, you know. But anyway, Neil Rothbardian, do you think you've overshared too much online with the YouTube channel? Is there anything you would do differently if you had to do it over again? Oversharing is not exactly. I would say I might like try not to have my personality on it, like almost like I do like video essays anonymously. That's kind of what I contemplate. That might be what I do instead. Like if I could go back and do it, and it's really just like I don't like the kind of ego domain of it, and I mean that in two different ways. One is, you know, I don't want to have my own ego inflated with my own name and likeness being associated with something. But also it goes reverse. Like it becomes like when people dislike me or like me, it becomes a personality thing, which is not like how they perceive me or I don't know. I think that's a little unhealthy. I think it would have been better. Like if I could go back, I would probably just do like almost dry video essays, maybe. But you know, I don't know. I don't really overshare. I mean, I'm very, I don't know. Hancock says, how do I stop being a word cell? Ironically enough, sometimes by, you know, reading and using words. All right, let's see. Let's see. Anon sends some XMR. Could you please shout out the Dom Mintoff group chat? It's a group chat between me and a couple of friends. Deo gracias. Okay. Well, I don't know what that is, but congratulations. All right, let's see. Shouldn't you base your vote on the best domestic interests instead of some poop hole elsewhere? You act like the church in Eastern Europe has no agency on themselves and their stuff. Well, the whole thing is like we're actively intervening in the church in Europe. Like it's almost like a targeted assassination of the church. So yeah, I'd rather us not do that. As it comes to domestic interests, what like American party represents the interests of Americans? They're none. There's zero. That's not in the running. Your good is not on the menu. Like you're not getting that. That's not. There's no party that, I don't know, endorses American interests. All right, let's see. Opinions on 6-7, please. Let's see. Do you like the poetry of Shelley? I mean, I've not read that much about it. I know I was talking about her, I was talking about Mary Wollstonecraft's letters, but did Bro talk about AI yet? Yeah, I wish I hadn't. No, I'm just kidding. We talked way too much about that. They say Trump is good on immigration, though. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he might be good on immigration, but I'm sorry, like I don't want to endorse, like, it's hard for me to endorse. Again, it's kind of what I said about like Protestants or other people like that, where it's like it's hard for me to endorse someone who's saying one or two things right or doing one or two things that are good and like doing things that are beyond egregious at the same time. I mean, like, because Trump doesn't have to do things as bad as what he's doing, you know, internationally. And frankly, that is like that is the bone anyway. Like they're giving. I think like things were so dire for Israel, you know, they're just kind of giving us whatever. You know, like, oh yeah, we'll arrest people who are overstaying visas and send them back. Well, they're not doing it with a significant number of people, obviously, but you know, not enough to make any kind of a difference, you know, in terms of immigration. But like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't make a big difference. Like, we're not serious. Like, I don't know. it's not a serious thing. It's all show. It's all. I mean, yeah, like people will say Trump is actually enforcing, like visa overstays and stuff like that in the country more, because like traditionally they're just lazy about people who come to the country and overstay. But I don't know. It's such a. I don't want to say it's a little thing because it is a big thing, but like when you're doing something, when you're almost about to instigate a nuclear war, I'm not going to be worrying about like stuff like that now. Like it's not a big of a like. And again, if they were like deporting millions of people and repatriating a bunch of them, I mean that's one thing. But they're not doing that, and they're not going to do that. They don't want to do that. They don't care about that. They're arresting some Muslim girl who like speaks in favor of Palestine because we're going to revoke her visa, and so this is ridiculous. That's not serious. He's not doing anything, All right. Oh, yeah, let me check just check super chats. Hold on. Okay. Luke Collins says London. Oh, okay. I don't know if this is a personal message or not. Okay. Either way, I see your message. Let's see. So Nicholas says, hey Luke, I emailed you about the Orthodox belief of demonic imagination. I'm Russian Orthodox, but I really like D&D and imaginative artsy stuff in general. How do you be a cool creative artist without giving yourself over to Faustian demonolatry? I mean, I think I'm not necessarily the person to ask about that. All I'm saying, I mean, you can ask a priest or some kind of elder, but I think it is definitely very much a slippery slope of, again, it's it's not even like kind of the demonic aspects of D&D. Like, yeah, that's obviously there, but it's like, it's the immersive fantasy world. Like, it's the alternate reality that I think is the really unorthodox stuff. I mean, yeah, obviously the demonic stuff is, but that, but that, imaginative and arty stuff, like art doesn't have to be imaginative, at all. Like in the Orthodox, in the bad sense, right? In the sense of like fantasy and nonsense and, whatever, like you can create works of art. And I'm not saying like just, I only draw things I see, but I think they don't have to be things that kind of bend reality. That's more or less what I'd say. I mean, obviously there's a huge artistic tradition in the church that is so trivial. It's almost like too trivial to even notice that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just feel like even before I was Orthodox, even when it comes to things like TV versus movies. I mean, at this point, I don't watch TV or movies, but, for a while, for probably 10 years, I was like, I'll watch movies every once in a while, but TV it's too immersive, right? Because you get in the world, an imaginary world, it's just constant, and you start thinking as if you're in the world, and it really breaks down the borders of reality, and that's what I think is dangerous. And yeah, fantasy role play kind of stuff is the same way. So how do you be a cool creative artist without giving yourself over to Faustian demonolatry? Well, you shouldn't be aiming to be a cool imaginative artist or something like that, cool creative artist. I mean, you can have, I think if anything, it's that kind of creative delusion that has created all the bad art of today. You have to have art that's based in reality and based in objective beauty and based in, I don't know, something real, I guess. That's what I would say. But I mean, it's again, something you want to talk to a priest about, or like where the line actually is. So, so another message from Luke. I sent you another donation before in case you missed it. Oh, and I have nothing to do with Dom Mintoff super chat, but Dom Mintoff was a socialist prime minister of Malta. You have quite a few Maltese fans, it seems. Oh, that's funny. Why did they have a chat about this guy? I've never heard of him. It's not like I'm gonna know about. I don't know, random Maltese politicians or... Okay, I'm going to attempt, but maybe not succeed, to pull up the YouTube Super Chat list, and I'm going to see if there's some I missed. It'll take like a minute or two, but... Let's see... It'll take just a minute. All right, I'll look at the chat for a bit while I'm... Thoughts on the Medici crime family. People ask me about everything. Thoughts on exercise. I think exercise can be... I mean, a good thing to do, but it's almost like a sad thing to do that we live in a place where, meaning a society where it's almost like you have to stay healthy by exercising. I don't exercise very much. During the summer, I get a lot of kind of manual labor. You know, I do, work on my property or something like that. And, I know like a lot of based guys or whatever, they do a lot of exercise or whatever. I've just never really been into, like, it strikes me as, obviously it is a LARP. It's like replicating movement in a gym in some kind of room. So because, we have to do it because like we don't have natural lives, and that's kind of sad. But yeah, that's not me saying it's a bad thing. Like for a lot of people, it can be very, very good and very, very helpful. Let's see okay. Does someone know where I can just view all the super chats at once? Oh, wow. They have like a tab for it. Why didn't I look for that originally? Okay, it's loading. Okay, great. That's going to be easier. I'm glad I can do that. Okay. I'm scrolling back. Let's see, I was on a 28K modem until 2015. I didn't have a smartphone until work forced me to have one a year ago. You're absolutely right. The internet is optional. Yeah. No? I said it because I believe it. Yeah, that's why people almost forget, like, if you spend any amount of time away from the internet, you actually... You want to see my... this is the stand. This water bottle is the stand that my... webcam was on, and it finally fell after like 2 hours. So, yeah, the internet is totally optional. Is that a little crooked? It's very hard balancing all this. Yeah, like I think if you spend a lot of time away from the internet, you realize just how out of the way the internet is, and how most people just don't. I don't know. I feel like a lot more people are just not on it than we expect. Like people might doom scroll, boomers might doom scroll or whatever, but it's just way less important to people's lives than I think people expect. Read the Benedict option and the Boniface option. I don't know what Boniface option is. I've heard of the Benedict option. Thank you for Larbs and all your great guides. I was very glad to see you streaming again. Oh, I might have read that one, but thank you anyway. I just wanted to share a testimony. My dad is a pastor. He lost many things for Christ. He lost family, health, and more, but the power of Christ has worked in him to keep him. And then Matthew 10:34-36. Do you think Pope Leo is right to confront the United States about the Iran war? Well, I mean, the Iran war is wrong, so... whatever. How does one find God? What makes you believe? Well, you pray for faith. You be open to things. I think, like, becoming... listen, we're all raised as atheists in the society. Even if you go to a church, even if you're, like, nominally some kind of Christian, everyone is, like... Everyone, if you leave them to their own devices, the way we are raised will make... And then you just take away everything else... People will become atheists because we are given atheistic assumptions about history, about the world, about we're given a set of cognitive algorithms to deconstruct anything else. And so I think part of it is you have to step out from that. A lot of guys ask me that. They want... I mean, ultimately, you have to pray for faith. You have to be open for things. Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes people, like, they have to go to church first, and then it comes. And then it's like, oh, I used to think this was goofy stuff, but actually this, so go to an Orthodox church, one where people take it seriously, and, I don't know. But it's different for everyone. People say this kind of stuff. It's almost like they ask me or other people, like, oh, how can you make... In the same way, people might ask me, how do I get motivated? People ask me, how do I believe in God? And it's kind of a funny... It's kind of a funny thing. I mean, I'm not dismissing it. There might be something there, but I'm just not wise enough to really be able to put myself in everyone's shoes and give you the medicine But the fact that you're asking the question, I guess, is good. The fact that you're even open to it is good. You just have to be serious about that openness, and you have to, hear things out, look at things in a different way, take action, go to an Orthodox church or whatever. But I can't give you every answer because I don't know. Also, are you married to bread on penguins? No. I've never met that girl. Maybe to make more sense of like, I don't know. She doesn't really look like me, but you could like allege she's like some kind of relative. One of the guys, who Kay sent a package to was on the Epstein list. No surprise there. Zero surprise there. Do you think a recession is coming soon? Well, either way, it doesn't concern me that much. Recession will be good. A recession for me is good because that means inflation will be mitigated. I like that. I like when inflation is mitigated. Maybe it'll be really bad and inflation will be inverted. Can you give us a quick rundown on the essence and energy distinction? Well, now we're 3 hours into this, and I don't really want to right now. Just go watch Jay Dyer or something. I don't know. Your answer to the problem of evil, Luke. Yeah, who is evil, Luke? The same thing there. Like, I think, I don't know. I don't really view the problem of evil. Like, again, I think it's kind of the implicit background Protestantism of the world where we have this idea that, like, suffering and evil are just, like, so much worse than anything good in the universe. Like, if you go through any pain, it's not worth the pleasure. You know what I mean? Like, there's no... And so I think that the idea that there's any deviation from perfection is really disturbing to people. And the truth is, evil exists because we are created in the image of God in that we have free will and we choose evil occasionally. And the salvation is about us learning to not choose that. And God recreating the world in that, I don't know, in that vein, Have you read Rene Guénon? No, I actually haven't. I've read people around him, but I've never had his book. Again, I'm not big into the big T traditionalist stuff. I think it's kind of LARPy, but Hush Tone says, would love to see you do a collab with Jay Dyer. Orthodox Kyle's friends with him. Yeah, I've actually met Jay Dyer at a conference. We talked a little bit, but just super. I mean, I might do something with him sometime. I don't know. But we're like in different domains. Like again, I'm just not as interested in like apologetic kind of stuff with him, as he is, I should say. But no, I mean, I think it's great how many people he gets to the church. I know people, unmentionable people just don't like him for different reasons, and it's not me endorsing everything he says, but I think he's I don't know. I like him. He's a good guy. My impression of him in person is he actually has good physiognomy, like jaw structure. That's my only, sometimes people go in front of cameras and they look better in front of the cameras. I feel like Jay, like he just healthy chin. That's all I can say. That isn't as obvious on the camera. But no, I didn't really talk that much with him. We were at a conference with a bunch of people, but we said hello, and yeah, that's it. Let's see, read these. Still going through the YouTube super chats I might have missed. Luke, why did Jesus say Christianity would reach all people if only the Orthodox Church is true? Well, it will reach all people. Yep. I mean, that's like saying, like, oh, well, why did Jesus say Christianity would reach all people if, like, Islam isn't Christianity? Because, like, oh, well, there are parts of the world that are Muslim. I mean, it's, you know. Thoughts on having to constantly deal with leftist, atheist people at corporate jobs? I'm Orthodox. It's kind of soul-crushing. Well, that's your struggle. I don't... you know, in my life now, a lot of the people I see are just from church, and it's kind of maybe too easy. You know, there are struggles sometimes, but you know, just be charitable to people. I think there's a lot of good in leftists and, you know, well, I don't want to say atheism, but atheists and you know, all people, like, you know, people naturally seek good, and people get confused, they get resentful when they're wronged, but a lot of leftists, like, the things they fundamentally want are good, they're just confused. And it's important to, like, look at, you know, I know lots of people who become Orthodox from being leftists. You know, it's not like being a leftist is a religion, but in a way it is. I mean, like, socially it functions as one. And, you know, I know some people who are like that, who became Orthodox, and, or, you know, you see how those, like, impulses they had are converted and purified, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing, and so you can't rule anyone out because they have cringe political beliefs, you know, as much as it pains me to... Maybe it's so easy for me to say that because I don't have to deal with all these people I disagree with all the time, but I do think that's the case. So be charitable to them, but, you know, hold your ground, don't get into arguments, but, you know. Any thoughts about the ongoing war in Iran? Only the ones I already said. Yeah, of course it's bad. Of course it's bad. Sooner it ends, the better. It has been almost, like, kind of refreshing to see that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. It's sad. That's all I can say. There's not much refreshing about any kind of war, but you know, I think it is, hopefully, the U.S. and Israel will learn some kind of lesson, because, you know, it's obvious that Trump really hoped they would just fall over. I mean, they just randomly killed their leaders and stuff, and, you know, it really had no effect for the most part. And I think, I don't know, I hope they learn a lesson. I hope they learn a lesson. We're not constantly getting close to world destruction or something, but, all right, let's see what else there is here. Oh, I haven't refreshed my emails. There's so many chat messages now. Like even the super chats that I missed. I want to thank you for being a bridge for the tech Linux-minded people to even consider stuff more than the material world. You're probably the reason my cousin decided to become a believer. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks. That, I mean, again, it's always good to hear. Let's see. I'm trying to think what other messages I missed here. Thoughts on Origin. Wait. I totally missed that. Thoughts on Origin. No real thoughts on Origin. I mean, he's a figure in the church. He's not considered a saint, but was very influential. Maybe had some errors, but he even was very close to many saints of his time, even educated many saints of his time. But there's not much more to say. He's not recognized as a saint. He had some questionable and condemned ideas. But I think you can definitely believe in someone who isn't like a canonized saint, who nonetheless had some positive impact on the church, or And again, like, he was very close to saints. When will you be in West Virginia next? This is Isaac, by the way. Wow, doxed. I'm not sure. Maybe this summer. For the same event last time, I might be there. So we'll see you. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll see you, but I'm not sure. I haven't decided. I might go to Jordanville at some point. Visit there. It's a little further, but thanks for the entertaining during my cooking sessions. Your hot takes are the best, man. Actually, today my takes have not been very hot. Like, we're just kind of chatting. It's good to be. It's funny to think, I really obviously compartmentalize a lot in my life. I don't do much stuff online. Only very infrequently. But it's kind of nice to know I can just start up the stream and talk to people. I'm thinking about doing videos sometime soon. I know last year I did videos, kind of around Bright Week. But maybe we can make that. Someone says, sorry, I think you overlooked a $20 I sent on YouTube. Let's see, Hush Tones. Looking for you. I'm looking. Oh. Christ is risen. I don't know if this is the one, if you sent multiple, but I see a $10 one. Christ is risen. I got into your content right before you disappeared from the internet. Turns out it seems like we were converting at the same time. I feel like I'm late to your content, though. Well, you're already converting, right? So, what do you need from me? But, let's see. Hi, Luke. I've been through the software Christianity pipeline. Don't take as offense, but I pray you come to Catholicism one day. May the Mother of our Lord intercede for all of us. Well, I do not think that's going to happen. I think you're making the wrong, I don't even need to say. I think that's, missing the mark. Let's see. Let me check XMR chat. Immortal says, how do Orthodox view Islam and its prophet? Why is he not viewed as a prophet? Well, because, he's definitely not viewed as a prophet because he said things contradictory to prophets in the past. And, obviously the Islamic faith has totally different. They don't believe in the divinity of Christ. They don't believe, in kind of the foundational stuff. A lot of, there is like a, well, actually, I don't want to go into that. It's too much. But yeah, no. Orthodox Christians do not believe that. That said, probably geopolitically nowadays, at least in the Middle East, I think Orthodox Christians and Muslims usually, sometimes, at least with the Israel issue, end up on the same kind of side of stuff. Because obviously, both of them are kind of under the boot, the Israeli boot. But obviously, there's some places, let's say Iran, all, Orthodox Christians are persecuted for the most part. But I don't know how serious Iran is. I know that they come after people who leave Islam, but I don't know if it's with death. I think it's nominally supposed to be with death, but I don't know how often they do that. I feel like I would hear about it if they did. All right, let's see. All right, have I read all the Zelle, PayPal things? I might have. Did I read this one? Gotta open it up. Okay, I think I'm going to look at the actual chat now. I think I've caught up with the... Oh, wait, here's another one. Mauro Bellino, what do you think about his quote-unquote translation of the Old Testament? I don't know about it. And I don't really want to go search it right now. Okay, let's go to live chat. Sorry, there were so many pregnant pauses. Okay, how do you read books to get the most out of them and better understand them? Do you write notes or something like that? Would you recommend How to Read a Book by something? Mortimer Adler. I've never read that book. Listen, just read the book and actually practice reading and like comprehending things. Like that's the real thing. That's the real reason people nowadays are bad at reading, because they don't do it. Like they never do it, and they're never serious about it. Or maybe school has gotten them used to reading just stupid things they don't like, or you just have to do it and do it and do it and do it. And yeah, I never write notes. Actually, in school, I never wrote notes. Like for classes, I'd never do that stuff, because like in my head, it's just like if I'm remembering something on a note, I'm not remembering it in my head. And I'd rather have that, like I'd rather just have the habit of like knowing things, sorry. So webcam is kind of shaking here, but I'd rather just have the habit of like remembering things than writing things down and having a notebook and all that kind of stuff. It just complicates stuff. So have you read Thus Spoke Zarathustra? Yeah, I have. I think I've burned that book. I want to say I burnt my Nietzschean corpus at some point. Do you pray to Mary? I mean, all Orthodox Christians do. Let's see. All right. Luke, when are you coming to India? Probably never. But are you still earn maxing with credit cards? Yeah. I mean, I always like churn credit cards and stuff. Like it's always something I'm doing intermittently. Like it's not like a big money maker or whatever, but you just get money back. Like you just get a comfortable amount of money back. So again, like if you do it consistently, it's like living with a 20% off coupon at all times. So why not do it? That's how I think about it. And do you have any more free money glitches? No, not quite. Actually, there are ways to like, frankly, someone who's like just oops. Someone who's just like totally actually, hold on. I might have heard a knock at the door. Give me a second. Just some package or something. Yeah, someone who's just like totally antisocial. There are definitely free money glitches out there, especially in the computerized world, but I do not do them. And they, frankly, although they might make money, they might not make money. It's almost like just as much work to have a real job. So, or just as annoying and kind of lame. Luke, you helped me pull the trigger on switching to Linux on all devices, and currently I've been questioning my more or less atheistical stance. Thanks for your content over all these years. Yeah, well, that's good to hear. It's good to hear. Okay, let's see. Sorry, emails were loading. So John says, I feel in my soul orthodoxy with apophatic theology and being against legalistic interpretations is the way, but at the same time Matthew 16:18 and approaching that can directly know how the Logos Aquinas has helped a lot. Thoughts? Matthew 16:8. Is that like the keys or something, or is that something different? Yeah, well, yeah, it is the keys passage. No, look at early saints when they refer to that, refer to that passage. Like, the interpretation of Vatican II does not exist in antiquity. Like they'll say, it refers to the College of College of Bishops, like the collection of bishops. There was no College of Cardinals before the schism or whatever, but that didn't exist. Much like, I guess, the whole papal structure. The important thing is early in the church, like, you're not a Protestant if you're a Catholic. You don't go in the Bible reading for something that kind of sounds like something you believe. Like, a Protestant, let's say a Protestant believes in some idea like the rapture, which is absurd. No Christian has ever believed it, but they find passages in the Bible that they think is secretly talking about this rapture thing. And it's obviously silly, and obviously it's not historical. Well, a Catholic does exactly the same thing when they're talking about the papacy. They have this concept of what the papacy is supposed to do. They read a passage about Peter or whatever. Ignore all the parts where Peter falls away after and his faith isn't actually, perfectly enduring, although at the end he was a saint. They read that stuff into it, and it's not there. Like the church, like, in excruciating detail, explains how its structure worked, and it's just not a papal structure. It's not just like, look at the ecumenical councils, and it's clear that Rome has a different distribution than all the other patriarchates. It's not just that. Like, look at, like Saint Vincent of Lérins. He's the one who gives the comment, like, what is Catholic doctrine? Orthodox, this is an early saint, there's no schism or whatever, but what is true Orthodox Catholic Christian doctrine is what's believed everywhere by everyone for all time, or something like that. I forget the exact phraseology. But that passage is him talking about, like, where can we go for the infallible teaching, right? He says, look at what everyone believes, but if they don't all believe something, or like there's some doubt about that, you look at the great councils, or you look at what people historically believed, or that kind of stuff. There's no concept like the faith is just magically preserved in Rome. That doesn't exist. Like, there are all these acts of councils and stuff about administrative structure, all of which has an ecclesiology exactly like the actual Orthodox Church, and utterly unlike the modern Roman Catholic Church as it emerged, around 1,000 or so years ago, after the schism. It's just not there. Like, that's all I can say. So, sorry, I wanted to pull back up that message again. Where was it? So, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, yeah, sure, you can find a passage in the Bible interpreted a way totally different from the history of the church, like how people used to interpret it, and read something new into it. But that's not important. What's important is, what does this passage actually mean for the apostles, for the saints? How did the early church actually function? It is the same Orthodox Church. It works in the same way. It's not Roman Catholicism. It's not papacy. That's it. That's all it is. And not just that, you can look at the papacy and you can see the history of how it evolved in the the investiture controversy, and the Gregorian reforms. Like, we know where the papacy as we understand it comes from, and where their ideas came from. And even after the Great Schism, as I said earlier in the stream, you have periods like the Papal Schism, where there are 2 or 3 claimants to the papacy, wherein even Roman Catholics have to have this new, they basically have to make this admission that, well, ecumenical councils are an authority higher than the Pope. They have to be, because we have to, force this, heal this schism, with a council, because obviously none of these popes are going to back down. So either way, you can look at things in Aquinas, and I did. There are a lot of things in Aquinas or other Roman Catholic scholastic writings that can be helpful, but that's not like, all I can say is, like, the substance of what differentiates their faith from the Orthodox Christian faith is not, they're wrong on those issues. That's all I can say. There's lots of good there, but it's the good that we preserve, Have you ever been to Mount Athos? Do you plan to visit? Oh, sure, I plan to visit. Although I went to Greece, I never went there. So I could not. It just didn't work with my trip, unfortunately, and I didn't really have an into it. But there's probably someone I know who knows some contact there, and I could get, some kind of, I could get there. Of course I want to someday. Luke says, any new hygiene hot takes since the old days? Still doing baking soda over deodorant? I'm cooked. My wife has me putting moisturizer on every night. I feel bad for you. But, yeah, I still usually use baking soda. I never use deodorant, but I very infrequently use baking soda. I think if you're, I mean, you probably know, but, if you're not clogging your pores with deodorant, over time your sweat just, like, ceases to stink. Like, the stink is, like, if you have deodorant on all the time, and, you haven't sweat out, basically, the toxins and all the nasty stuff your body creates. And if you, like, sweat healthily and you're not, you let your body sweat, you're just not going to have... I mean, so I have a cousin who works, like, with railroads. Like, he does some manual labor. Like, it is kind of an engineering thing, but, like, the guys are out there in the heat. Like, it'll be, like, 110 degrees, some ridiculous heat. And they always say, when a guy first comes to the job... The first day, his stink is the worst thing you'll ever smell. It's just the nastiest, most disgusting. Like, it's just putrid. You'll want to throw up. But then after a day or so, he just doesn't smell at all. And that's just how it is. Like, modern people, because they're deodorizing all the time. And, of course, these guys aren't using deodorant. But once you really sweat it out, it's out. Like, you're not... In fact, you don't want to have, like, all these years of, like, nasty sweat basically kept in your pores by deodorant. It's disgusting. So all I can say now is, like, I pretty infrequently, like, during the summer, even though, even when it's warm, I really wear stuff tactically. I try to wear linen. I try to wear breathable stuff so that I don't sweat that much in the first place. Or it's not really about the sweat. It's really about, I just wear comfortable stuff. I mean, duh, I should. I don't wear any polyester. It just doesn't exist. I only use natural fibers and stuff, but, like, yeah, I think once you have healthy habits, like, you're not gonna stink. Like, that's all I can say. You're not gonna stink that much, but you know that. I can't think of any other new hygiene thing I do. It's basically just that. Let's see. Thoughts on Professor Jiang? I know he's a schizo, but base schizo or cringe schizo. I think he's overrated, but I appreciate him red-pilling normies. I don't exactly. I've never seen him. I mean, I see him, like, recommended. I know he's, like, going viral or whatever, but I just don't know about him. I've never clicked on a video. I see his videos recommended all the time. I know. I think he went on, like, Tucker Carlson or something or whoever, and I don't know. But I've also heard people post stuff about, like, what he says that's, like, wildly off the wall. But, frankly, maybe we need a couple more people that are wildly off the wall, because it at least, like, shakes things up. People consider different things, but I don't know. I don't care, don't have an opinion about him. I know he's out there, but, All right. Okay, I'm getting a little tired right now. Might want to take a break. A break of a couple years. I'll be back. No, but I'm actually... I have some other stuff to do. I need to be ready to do some stuff like... Anyway, so... I'll send in whatever last comments, donations, whatever, and I'll read them. But slowly I will yeah, I'll probably end pretty soon. Pretty soon might be 30 minutes, I'm not sure. But I'm just announcing my intent. Okay, let me check the XMR chat. Anything there? Don't see anything there. The Bitcoin thing. Anything there? Don't see anything there. And we'll check emails. Let's see. $10 from George Fluoride. Hi, Luke. Been in my hometown for 3 years, despite hating it and hating my investing job. I'm losing soon. Feel stuck and I can't think clearly, but feel better when I leave. Like, but feel better when I leave like locational black pill. Not clue what to do for work, and I can't think straight all these years. Any advice? Well, if you actually have no... Again, like I said, one of the years I enjoyed most is my time in Statesboro. I didn't really have a fantastic job. It paid peanuts. But, like, if you can weaponize your free time to do something that not just pays off financially, but, like, is edifying for you, and I don't mean fun. It can be fun. Mine was fun. But as long as you can make it edifying, like, if you're having trouble thinking, if you're feeling overburdened, you might just need a vacation, meaning not going to the beach or something. I mean, like, you need to take it easy for a while, you know? Maybe have, like, a nominal job, you know, live where you can live cheap. I mean, I lived there because I was paying, like, I don't know, $200 or $300 for rent in this room or something. It was ridiculously low. I just recommend, like, temporary downsizing. Like, if you're living... Did you say you're living with your parents? No, it just says hometown. I don't know. Yeah, it might need a change of scenery. I think it might be good. You know, if you're young. I assume you're young if you're saying this kind of stuff. But, you know, you don't just do whatever I say. But all I can say is, like, it wouldn't be crazy if you did, like... I would just, if you're having trouble, if you feel overburdened, if you're overthinking, it might be best to kind of divest a little bit, like take back, look at your life, breathe a little bit, you know, don't wage cut too much, but, you know, and then just like try to do some stuff. All right, let's see. All right. Do you think Leo's efforts to mend the schism will actually lead anywhere? Some patriarchs seem to be open to the dialogue. What would unity look like? It's nearly impossible to imagine, like, genuine... I mean, like, you don't need to know the politics of the Orthodox world, but, like, the conversations of unity with the Roman Catholic Church... mean very like these I know in Catholic domains they have this feeling that, oh yeah, this great schism's going to end any moment because we're talking to the Patriarch of Constantinople and he says things we like and we say stuff he likes, and all I can say is, like, that means very little in the Orthodox world, and it's mostly like ingratiation, and there's nearly no chance of that. I think From my perspective, I feel like there is a small chance that maybe some trad Caths, if they have the gumption, they might, you know, bishop by bishop, be received into the Orthodox Church. But the fact is, the deviation of faith in Roman Catholicism is pretty significant. Like, there are some practices that are pretty universal in Catholicism that, like, you just can't do if you're Orthodox. Like, let's say like dedication to, like, body parts, like, I mean, like the Sacred Heart of Christ or things like this that are based on I mean, this might sound like a little thing, but there's a big theological and practical difference between Roman Catholicism and Orthodoxy that is a lot more significant. Like, there are a lot of things that Roman Catholics have taken on in the past 1,000 years that are kind of hard to undo, or they wouldn't want to undo. And although, of course, if it were just like some kind of traditional Latin Rite Christianity that, like, for some kind of superficial reason went out of communion with the rest of the church, that's one thing. But there's a lot of stuff in the past 1,000 years that in order for true union to happen, they are gonna have to acquiesce on. And it's not just them admitting certain things about the conciliar nature of the church. It's practical things. And it's the fact that, I mean, even in Vatican II, like, Vatican II took out a lot of lives of saints, and, you know, just there's a bunch of weird stuff, you know. So I think it's possible to imagine, like, groups of Catholics, bishops, like maybe dissident bishops in the Roman Catholic world being received into Orthodoxy. But like, if you see on a Catholic site that, like, the Great Schism has been healed because the Patriarch of Constantinople did this, that, or the other, it's not. What it actually is going to mean is maybe some Orthodox group is becoming a uniate, but like the rest of the Orthodox Church is going to be there. No one buys it. No one like Catholics don't really perceive the difference between themselves and Orthodoxy as being very great. But the actually healing the entire schism would be hard to imagine. Whereas that isn't quite as difficult to imagine with like non-Chalcedonian churches or the Assyrian church or something. Even though the schism there has been way longer, still they're like the differences in practice. Like it's not like Copts or Armenians or something like that do have some radical novel practices that, you know, Orthodoxy would object to. So, you know, you can imagine like the reunification of the non-Chalcedonian schism, but it's hard for me to imagine, and that still would be very difficult. I'm not saying that's an easy thing, but Roman Catholics, I just don't see it. I just don't see that, frankly. There's a guy, Sylvan Franklin, that claims to be your son. Only problem is his YouTube account was hacked, so he went to look for you in the mountains. Well, that's funny. Well, he's not my son, don't worry. That is funny, though. Well, actually, how much tongue-in-cheek is that? Let's see. Sorry, I missed. What are your thoughts on looks maxing? Come on. I was recently told I knew a little bit about that domain, but I remember having a conversation with a young man about bone smashing, and I'm like, wow, the internet. There's so much new stuff in incel culture has produced so much of the internet, bone smashing. That's so funny. Because you were AFK, what do you think about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and by extension the state of the left in 2026? Well, I noticed when that happened. It was kind of I was kind of surprised. I'm not even going to commit. I don't know who killed him. I know there's a guy. I know there's a guy they have. I know there's ambiguity about some stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. It's very sad. It's very terrible. I don't know exactly what to say though, because I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't really even know to whether I'm gonna believe that this guy actually killed him or there's some other kind of conspiracy behind it. I've heard many different things, but I don't really know or care enough to really look into them. Maybe I'd have an opinion if I did, but I think the easiest first step would be for the Eastern Patriarchs to be given voting rights in the conclaves. I don't expect the schism to heal swiftly. See, that only a Catholic would think something like that. The conclave, what? That presupposes that patriarchs are under the Pope of Rome. They're not. If an Orthodox bishop were to consent to that as a term for reunification, they would be just apostatizing. They would just be becoming Roman Catholics, you know? That's just how it is. Okay, I'm gonna check mail and. Whoop. Give me a second. Sorry, every couple of minutes I go to fix the webcam. I would even ask people how delayed it's actually been, but. Then it's a minute until I actually see it in the chat, and I'm just not gonna be looking when the answers come. Let's see. Okay, Luke says nothing more to say. Really, just happy to see you back. This is the Maltese guy. I'm just writing you for a longer email. Hope to see you again. Great. Yep. Yeah, see that. Let's see, and license another. Okay. All right. Let's see. That was more administrative. Oh well, I guess I'm about done. Let me just see if there's any other. What's your opinion of Guénon and the traditionalists? Man, I've talked about this multiple times in a stream, but that's how it is. Not everyone stays there the whole time. Luke, you missed 2 of my super chats. I'm gonna have to go look then. Hold on. I still remember when we played 0 AD the last time you were at Self, I think. Yeah, yeah, 0 AD. So here's a behind the scenes fact you guys know I'm not a gamer, but I played we play, well, we used to, at least at Linux Fest. We would all like play free and open source games or whatever, and I would just wreck everyone at 0 AD. And I just wrecked everyone. I wrecked them the first year and the second year, and it was no like they could have all been on the same team. I would have wrecked them. But I think some people got good at the game now, so I'm almost like, oh, I don't know if I should play it again. I'm too good for that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to retain my position as at least thinking in my own head that I'm the best player of this game that no one else plays. Yeah, it's just like an Age of Empires clone. You know, don't play it. It's bad to play games. But not all Protestants believe in the rapture. The American evangelical and Baptist stuff. What's your opinion with Calvinist thought? Even worse. That's my opinion. That's really when when Protestants like threw out the episcopacy and like started having these like bizarre takes on sacraments is when, like, Calvinism is just like a little higher on the slide, and it inevitably leads to low church, whatever. It's not like it leads inevitably to the rapture, but tried to send a Bitcoin donation message, but it hasn't gone through. Okay, yeah. If you have any other, if there's something that's missed or processing, you can send it to my email. Oh, wow. See, now, like, actually a lot of people are emailing me just about other things. They're like, oh, Luke is alive. I gotta email him about this. Okay, let's see. Guys, I'm actually getting really tired. Okay. Okay. I don't know. I think we're about done. I think I went through all the donations I could find. And I'll see if there's anything happening in the chat right now. Thoughts on the persecution of Christians by the Jews in Israel and Palestine? It's bad. That's all you gotta say. That's all you gotta say. They tried to close the sepulcher and all that kind of stuff. Notionally they closed the Wailing Wall too, but it's like, come on, man. You're gonna close the sepulcher for Palestine, for Pascha? It just seems ridiculous. Nick is a Fed. Oh, wow. Wow, we've gone this whole stream and no one's asked me about Nick Fuentes. Wow. Great. How have we done that? New super chat. What is it? What are your thoughts on the Hyper 7173 keyboard? I don't know anything about it. Sorry, I don't. If it's something technology related that's come out in the past 2 or 3 years, I'm sorry. I just don't. I'm not keeping track. I boomer here. I'm just might as well be using Slackware, because. Oh, Luke Collins says I missed one of his. Let's see. Yeah, Luke says, okay, maybe this is the one he's looking at. Okay, I sent you the email too. I do have a technical question, actually. I'm still running a personal mail server I set up following your website mail server speedrun videos. Sometimes, rarely, overzealous spam filters send my mail to spam, especially G Suite stuff on that. Might depend. You might have some like DNS settings screwed up, or like they're not as familiar with your DNS, or I don't know if you've already looked, but like sometimes your IP address or domain might be in a spam list, so you might want to check that, like a publicly accessible spam list, and you can go usually to those companies and say, hey, my domain isn't spam, I'm sending this, or like if your IP you know before you had it was used for something, you know, whatever. That's the only thing I can think of. But at the same time, like honestly, maybe server settings have changed a little bit since I did that, or like I made the script. Occasionally people will open a PR to change something there, so maybe you could check the GitHub for it, because I haven't really looked at it recently, but there might be some setting that's different in postfix or something now. George Fluoride, to follow up, I have taken a lot of time off here and there and will make great realizations, but come back home and virtually forget it all. Time memory doesn't exist here. Only option is to move out, but unsure what to do. It's all psychologically and truly cucked. Yeah, I mean, like, it sounds like in that case, it's probably you fall into bad habits when you're in familiar places. You might even be able to stay in the same town if there's a reason for you to be there, but just like truly change your scenery and your like just the way you live. But yeah, it's not like, listen, sometimes like, man, like you could reorder your bedroom, like move your furniture, and somehow it'll have a psychological difference on you. If you're just in your own bad habits, sometimes like, yeah, just a little difference. And it might mean moving. I just don't know the specifics of your life, but yeah, sure. I mean, I could imagine that being the case. Oh, sorry, I missed a Bitcoin donation. Hey, Luke, I'm a whole Bitcoin is $5 in Bitcoin. Hey, Luke, I'm of the firm belief that it's not worth following the news, but what about reading books in general? How much time reading books is enough for most people? Yeah, like, yeah, don't follow the news, definitely. There's no, because like it's all noise and very little signal. And books too, you have to be discerning, but like obviously books are a little harder to produce, so there's less trash, although there is lots of trash. And I would say, again, as I said to the other guy, like when it comes to becoming adept at like reading books, like you just do it, do it. And, you know, read stuff at the beginning, just read stuff you're super interested in, that you're just going to find really fascinating, and, like, you don't want to put down, like, again, it doesn't have to be, some people, they just think reading is all about novels. Maybe it's a book on history you need to read. Maybe it's whatever, you know, just be open. That's all I can say. I don't know, but it's not like every day I spend time reading. Sometimes I happen to be reading or researching things. Usually I'm not reading. Usually I'm researching. I'm like, okay, what is my narrative about this aspect of history? Let me get the 10 books I have on this subject, and let me read about this specific issue. You know, that's often how I do it. Based cooking when will you merge PRs for based cooking or appoint a maintainer? Also, do you think you've alienated your early audience by shifting from technology videos to humanities? Well, the truth is my early audience, like at the beginning, I put out different videos too. A lot of those old videos I've taken down because like if there was a video that's like politics adjacent, like, which I never really did a political video, but I took down a lot of videos that I thought might like get strikes or whatever whenever YouTube goes through its perennial purges. So if you look back at my history, it's all going to be technology, and that is the stuff a lot of people were drawn to. But technology, it's always been technology touching on things that are related to life. Like even if people come for a tutorial, most of my videos and most of my views are frankly they're not tutorials. And I know how many views I got on different things. People just mostly want to talk about other things. Hold on, let me check something for a second. So, no, I'm not worried about alienating my audience either, because I'm not doing this for an audience. I'm not like I want people to enjoy the stuff I do, but ultimately it's my own outlet. Like, it's not an issue how many people are watching or who's watching, or I mean, it does matter. But all I can say is whenever I meet my subscribers, I'm always pleasantly surprised and impressed. But also, the stuff they want to talk about is not some shell tutorial. It's, big ideas, big concepts, whether something adjacent to technology, or frankly, usually it's something of faith. It's something about orthodoxy or whatever. Like, that's honestly the most common thing. So, and those are the people in real life. That's what the people in real life want. And, Okay, let's see. Slobodan says, you should recommend Father Seraphim Rose to the folks inquiring about Rene Guénon. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Father Seraphim Rose, I think, is a good, good person to read. When you mute your microphone, your sound can be heard through another source of input. Be careful. Okay, well, that's not going to make a difference. I'm not, But thank you for notifying me about that. I'll have to fix that for next time. Okay. Hey, we're entitled to endless free tech tutorials. Go make them. Yep. All right, I should probably go soon. Thanks everyone who came out. Happy bright week. Christ is risen. And I don't know what we'll talk about next time, but we just talked about whatever. I might make some videos this week about different topics, different stuff. But everyone have a good day. Let me just double check emails one last time, even though I already said goodbye. I don't think there's anything new. So anyway, again, Christ is risen. Have a good bright week, good Paschal season, and we'll see